very good evening to everyone watching around the country, or indeed the world. My name's Stairs, and welcome to Nazareth Speedway for round 7 of Apex Rear Wing's 10th season. My name's Stairs, joining Matt Dunlop in commentary, in substitution for our dear friend Madbird, who's on the sick list tonight. Matty.
He certainly is, and hopefully he gets better soon, because it's always great to have him in the box, but it's great to have you in the box as well, Stairs. It's been a long time since we've called a race together. It
has. I did call a race earlier in the season, but that was with Madbird, so I've had a go with Madbird this season, and I've had a go with you. And it was funny, I was actually watching one of our Imola commentaries just the other day, and I thought we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with Imola, actually. That was quite good commentary that I did there, but that was then, and this is now. We are in Season 10 of Apex Rear Wing. It is round 7, as you mentioned, and we are on an oval, folks. Well, it's a weird little oval. I don't know what shape you'd really call this, because it's got a strange little dog leg on the front straight. It doesn't really seem to be proportional or symmetrical in any way. It's a very old-school style NASCAR kind of circuit, even though it was built for IndyCar. This version in the 1980s, I think it was. So it existed as a dirt track back in the 50s and 60s. And it's well known in Pennsylvania for being the track where Mario Andretti and the Andrettis cut their teeth as young up-and-coming racers. But then Roger Penske bought it in 1986 and demolished all the dirt ovals and put this little mile-long paved thing in for IndyCar. And there's a little bit of NASCAR running there, but it unfortunately closed down in 2004. Nowadays, the facility is looking pretty derelict, actually. You can probably find some abandoned exploration videos on YouTube. But we've got our version here that's pretty similar to how it would have looked in 2004, and we're going to throw some 1986 Brazilian stock cars around it.
Yeah, they've even put the for lease signs up on the pit garages there in this version of the racetrack, so I find that to be a bit interesting. A tri-oval, I guess, is one term you could use for it. It's got sort of 3 distinct bends, and it really should see a bit of a shuffling of the order. Having said that, Xerus is at the top of the timesheets at the moment. Brenton Foley currently sat in 4th, but he was struggling a little bit earlier in the session. He has actually got up to pace somewhat. Bagsy, who selected this circuit, is up in 3rd, so no surprises there. The man who loves the ovals is loving the selection that he has made. Let's have a quick look at the points, and forgive me for having the wrong points graphic there. Let me just fix that for a moment. That was the last one that we did, and I'm just loading up the updated one for the points after round 6. That's Brenton Foley leading by a pretty decent margin. He's got more than a race win in his pocket with 77 points over Xerus. Goofball Antics in 3rd. Not here tonight, actually. Not a huge fan of the ovals. Resist in 4th, looking to claim that 3rd spot from him. Birdo as well. He's doing pretty well in the ovals so far in 5th place. And then we've got Scotty Murrell, Netherelmian, Roadhog, Sam Smith, and Bagsy rounding out the top 10. Bagsy might be able to claim that 9th spot off of Sam Smith tonight, as well as Sam Smith is absent. He's struggled a little bit for availability with a very busy work schedule.
Yeah, we've only got 10 drivers on track at the moment, which means we're going to have nice and tight racing around here. And it's really going to mix up the order, like you mentioned. And it means drivers who normally don't find themselves too close to the front of the field are going to be on for pretty good hauls of points if they can hold on and stick it out for this whole 1-hour race around this tight oval track. We're looking at Nether at the moment, who's currently bringing up the rear of the field in practice. He is 0.4 of a second off the pace, which at any other track would be a pretty close margin between pole position and the back of the grid. But because we're on an oval and your driving style becomes so refined through these 3 corners that we have here, is sort of, you see very, very short margins. For example, you can probably see there that the difference between Nether in 10th and Roadhog in 9th is currently only 0.003 of a second. And earlier, I think Resist and Brenton Foley, or I could be wrong there, somebody else, were on the exact same time for a brief period. So qualifying is going to be, without a doubt, the tightest we've seen all season.
Yes, goes without saying with a 30-second lap time, I suppose. But nevertheless, the gaps have definitely come down as the practice session has gone on. We did have a few drivers about half an hour ago who were a second off the pace. Now that's closed to everyone within about half a second. So that does make bit of a difference. Rodney Andrews, or Tyrrell, one of the guys who's not with us tonight, asking if Madbird has lost his beak. And Madbird, who goes by the name of Two Awful Guys, watching along. Hello, Madbird. At home, his beak is sore and he is coughing, but I'm assured that it is not the coronavirus. He has been tested, and so that means no COVID. In fact, no COVID for about 3 or 4 days now in South Australia. So, but
Yeah,
I will refrain from getting you to comment on that, since you've already commentated. You've done the commentary curse on the cricket while we were waiting to get going tonight. So your commentary curse skills are red hot tonight, Matty.
We were talking about the debutant Cam Green and how he doesn't seem to be doing too badly at all. And that's the comment that I made. And as soon as I said that, he chipped it to square leg and got caught. And now we've got Maxwell, who's replaced him on 1-for-1. Australia on 5-for-162. It's not looking super like a sure thing at the moment, because our star batsmen in the ODIs have all gone for pretty cheap figures. So this will be an interesting one. But this race will be super interesting because we haven't really done much oval stuff in general over the history of Apex Rear Wing, have we, Madbird?
Upstairs.
Oh, I'm so sorry. There it is.
No, we've literally done one officially sanctioned Apex Rear Wing race on an oval, and that was the Bristol. I nearly said Stillchart. The Bristol Raceway. I'm actually not sure what it's called. The Bristol International Circuit. That doesn't sound right. I'm going to have.
Or the Bristol Motor Speedway or something like that.
Motor Speedway, yes. That was a 15-second lap in the Porsche boxes back in, I think it was the 6th season of Apex Rear Wing. I was in that race, and I actually managed to get a podium, but I was well over a lap behind Xerus, who absolutely dominated that race. And I felt all at sea in a racetrack like that, and the gap on a 15-second lap was about a second to Xerus, which, as you can imagine, was a huge. A second off the pace is quite a lot on any track, but on a 15-second lap, that was a little bit embarrassing.
It's a shame because Bristol's such a great track as well, and apparently, in real life, because it's been a stalwart of the NASCAR Cup Series for quite some time, and they're going to have they normally have 2 races per year at Bristol, and because they're trying to mix things up in the NASCAR Cup to get people back watching that series again, for the second one, they're going to cover it with dirt and make it a dirt track race for the regular Cup cars on what is 36-degree banking, one of the fastest short tracks in America. So that's going to be hectic by every sense of the word.
Madbird bringing our attention to a oval race that we did in Apex Rear Wing in the Formula 3s. That wasn't an officially sanctioned race, that was a silly season race that he's referring to, but that was on I think it was the Daytona Speedway, an incredibly different oval to Bristol Motor Speedway and the Nazareth Speedway that we're racing on tonight. That was wide open throttle bump drafting for the entire race, and he suggested it was awful. I thought it was terrific fun, but it was back in the days when Madbird was racing with a controller, so it was a lot more difficult to stay on the back of someone who you're trying to bump draft.
Yeah, you've got to be a lot more precise around an oval track, especially Daytona in the Formula 3 car. That sounds like a surefire way to blow an engine after about 20 minutes in one of those things, because you'd be full throttle the entire lap, wouldn't you?
It was definitely flat, absolutely flat to the floor the entire way. There was no need to lift through any of the banked corners of the Daytona Speedway. Those Formula 3 cars with a fair bit of downforce, well, in relative terms, that obviously nowhere near as much downforce as a Formula 1 car, but a bit more than an oval spec Indy car, and a lot less speed, so they don't actually need as much downforce, so they were very easily flat throughout the entire lap.
Very different to what we'll be seeing tonight, because these cars have a distinct lack of any form of grip, whether that be aerodynamic or mechanical, which makes them a hell of a lot of fun to drive. But they also have to, slow down and modulate the throttle a lot. For the most part, they're going to be... there's been a big accident on the start of the trial. There's a wheel rolling along the track, Roadhog's backwards through the pit entrance. Let's have a look at the replay.
That was Rhodey coming out of the pits. Was it Rhodey or was it Brenton Foley? Someone.
That's Brenton Foley's car there. And...
so...
he's done it all on his own.
Incidental. Yeah, he's done it on his own, and then poor old Foley was caught up in that as Roadie. Yeah, it was Roadie, beg your pardon. Road Hog came down to the bottom of the track. Force of habit. I'm sorry, Roadie. Here is Roadie and Bagsy and I think it's Zarlinger and Berto occupying a similar piece of the racetrack. A little bit of slipstream going on. While we were getting ready for this broadcast, Matty, we got a message from Brenton Foley who informed us that the totem pole in this racetrack actually works with the numbers. So we'll see if we can find a shot of that because that's an interesting feature. I know that there are quite a few tracks where the totem poles actually work.
Oh, that's pretty nifty. It's a shame that the camera angles here aren't really super conducive. It's right on the start-finish line on the main straight is where I'm looking at it now. So you might be able to catch a little smidge of it on the camera angles. I can see you're just exploring there, trying to figure out where it is. There's been nothing coming up on my screen in this practice session.
Yes, so far nothing on there, so I'm wondering if that's a setting that I haven't switched on to do with textures or whatever. But I've definitely noticed them to work in other racetracks. Bit of action going on here. Bagsy actually spinning to the inside into the pit lane.
As quick as possible he is, and he's rolling backwards down the lane at the moment.
Good point to note with a couple of cars spinning in the last few moments is that the safety car is actually quite sensitive for this racetrack, so it doesn't have to spin around far. The game Automobilista has a slightly different setting in terms of the sensitivity of the safety car for oval tracks than it does for road courses, so that will be a bit of an interesting feature to this race that affects the strategy.
Yeah, definitely. That's sort of reminiscent of what happens in general NASCAR racing, and as soon as you see just a little bit of a loss of control, even if a car just spins, whether it hits the wall or hits another driver, or it's in danger or it's gone to the inside runoff and there's no problem at all, they'll always throw a yellow flag out and they'll always neutralize it because it seems to make for more exciting racing or something like that. So that seems to have been a hangover in what's happening here, and it will definitely make strategy interesting. I'm not sure what the fuel load or the tires are like in terms of how long they'll last over an hour of running here. I imagine they'll probably have to pit quicker than they would have at Laguna Seca for that endurance event, because they'll be spending a bit more time on full throttle here. But in saying that, you still have to go pretty slowly through the corners. As I was saying earlier, definitely not flat in these cars, which have no grip. So you kind of have to steer as much as you can without breaking grip, and then with the wheel, and then actually steer the car with the throttle and the brake, which is what you normally find in a lot of oval racing. And it sort of turns, because these cars like to slide a lot as well, it becomes a little bit dirt tracky. And that's where our debutant for the season, Scott Murrell, comes into play, because he's had a lot of experience with dirt racing on iRacing, and he rates himself pretty highly at it. He enjoys it a lot, so we might see him featuring up in the pointy end of the standings as the race wears on. He's currently 4th in practice, and he's on a pretty good lap at the moment, so he might improve even as he crosses the line. No, he doesn't. He does. He's 3rd now.
So he's still about a 10th and a half off the best time of this session, which has been set by Xeris. Been swapping around a bit. Scott Murrell, also Berto and Xeris have been trading fastest times in the last 10 minutes or so. Two awful guys suggesting that Resist could get his first win tonight. Well, that's more or less ensured that it won't happen. I won't get your comments on that, Matty. But it's probably a good opportunity to just have a talk about the format for tonight, because it is slightly different to what we have been used to in this season, given the format of the racetrack. And we are doing a 1 hour timed event as opposed to 2 shorter races. It's a longer endurance type event. The only other event that we've had so far that's been a 1 hour timed race was the Laguna Seca, and then we've got another one in the final round at Curitiba. But as you said earlier, that will have an effect on the strategy. We've also got a rolling start. Because I don't think the track actually supports a standing start, which makes sense. And then with the qualifying, each driver will get 2 timed laps, as it's only a 30-second lap. So as with qualifying in real life at ovals, they tend to take a little bit of time to get up to speed, and that's why they get more than 1 lap.
And that means that even if you happen to make a mistake on your second lap, your first lap, I think, will still count towards your time. It's the best of those two. It's not necessarily you being timed for the second alone. So you've got a little bit of security there in terms of what you can do with your qualifying session. Make a little bit of a stop up from the first lap, no problem at all. You can just go for it again in the second and hope you can get a good lap time down. And that is practice that we've just ticked over, and we are now moving into said qualifying session.
A couple of comments coming through asking why Scotty isn't in his new car. He was... a new livery was created for him by one of the guys in the session, is in the series, but we don't actually normally do in-season updates, and as such, Cirrus actually forgot to update the server with the new livery, and I just told him not to bother, because then I didn't have to install it on my second computer. So that's the reason why that is. So Rhodey is the first car up in this qualifying session.
Stops at the end of this pit lane and waits for the green light, which comes on now, and he'll be away very, very shortly, I imagine. There he goes right now. It's a weird little pit lane entry. You can see that second lane that goes around and follows the path of the track through the tri-oval. I've been doing a little bit of digging, and I don't actually know what that's for. So, most of these, or pretty much all these guys, know that they have to go down the correct pit lane when they come into the stop. And you can see that you rejoin at the start of the back straight, and that's also where you come into the pits at the end of your stint. So you don't use this little spot here on the main straight, but that's where the safety car will come in. So interesting. You'll basically have a very, very short run to the line when there's a safety car restart. And now we're just seeing a replay. We just saw a replay, as a matter of fact.
That's me switching over into the qualifying graphics.
No worries at all. So now Rhodey's on his flying lap, and he's taking it pretty easy. Not really troubling the apexes so far through an oval, which generally doesn't matter because you can sometimes pick up a bit more speed as he runs down the back straight into turn 3 is what I have on my map here. And apparently this counts as 2 corners, but I don't know why they like to do that so much with oval tracks because it's 1 corner. Sort of treat it as one. The first lap comes to a close and it's a 32.080. It's a bit of time off what you can normally do around this track. I think we're starting to see some 30.9s from the leaders in the practice session, but he does have one more lap to put a time down, and he should be able to improve. We do have sectors here, and he's up a little bit in the first sector, but only marginally though.
Yes, well, he'll be building some tyre temperature and building some momentum. Comments coming through about Budweiser. Stairs is asking if Budweiser is any good. I confirm that it is not. I have been to North America, and I can confirm that it is not a very good beverage. And we'll move swiftly on from that. That's the end of Rhodey.
Oh, he didn't post the second time, I don't think. Or either he did and he wasn't able to improve. So it is a 32.080. Set the benchmark for Rhodey.
So Rhodey comes out to see if he can beat the time set by Rhodey. Outlapped so far for him.
In the Marlboro HDT machine that Madbird will often refer to as hot because he misread it entirely the first time he called these cars, and he had no idea that the Holden dealer team was a thing, which I thought was quite hilarious.
Anything that sort of happened before about 2015 in motorsport, I think generally Madbird needs a little bit of well, not reminding, because you have to know something to be reminded of it, but it's all sort of not in his sort of history books in the back of his mind. Having said that, he does know things that occurred in Rush, the Senna documentary, and Ford versus Ferrari. So we're gradually filling in those gaps of knowledge.
There you go. I was always wondering, like, if he'd help if everyone else in the motorsport kind of interest circles had spends as much time as I do just sitting around procrastinating assignments and projects by reading up about motorsport and all the history and whatnot. And I do a lot of that. And yeah, he says he's confirmed in the chat that he is clueless before 2014. And Roadhog is up on his second lap, almost 0.2 of a second. So he's looking pretty quick so far. Crosses the line, and that is a 31.498. And Roadhog moves up ahead of Rhodey in the qualifying standings.
I must say, I spent a fair bit of time during my high school years watching Formula One races from before I was born, and then I'd tell my folks about this race that I just watched, and they'd be like, I remember when that happened. How do you know about that? That happened before you were born. And I was like, well, I just saw it on YouTube. So that's how I filled in a lot of my historic motor racing knowledge.
It'd be really nice if they had a function like MotoGP does, where you can just sort of pay X amount of money over the off season, and you can watch as many old races as you possibly like. But Formula One's been pretty slow on picking up their media kind of presence in the past few years. They've done a little bit, but not a huge amount. But so the older races, you can always look at statistics and see what happened. But I guess when you watch the races as they happen, it's a little bit easier to sort of get the true story of what's happening behind the scenes. Zarlinga is out on his qualifying lap now. He's very marginally up on his first lap on what Roadhog was doing through the first and second splits. He's up actually a 10th on the second, so he had a bit more pace down the back straight than Roadhog did. As he crosses the line, his first lap is going to be 31.521, so that's not as quick as Roadhog, but he does have one more lap to improve.
Yeah, just touching on that F1's sort of social media, they have definitely been improving in recent years. I remember a time when Bernie Eccleston wouldn't let anything go onto YouTube. That anything remotely Formula One related would get knocked down almost immediately. But they did do a good job earlier this year during the middle of the COVID pandemic. Zarlinga goes second, or actually he's on track for first through the second sector split, but he lost time through the next one, and that's it for Zarlinga. He'll stay in second, so not a lot of people not actually improving on their second lap.
Yeah, he shedded that time off pretty quickly actually, because the third sector is only between the end of the back straight and the finish line, of course, which is one corner. So he must have just had no pace through that corner at all. And it's good. The sectors are good because they're split off into the first half of the track up to the exit of turn 2, and then the second sector is just the back straight on its own, and the third sector is that last corner. So you can really section off what parts of the track you're doing well at and what parts of the track you're not so quick at. And it's a good way to improve when you're doing lap times such as these, and also to improve your race pace as you go on.
We'll just see what Resist can do in the back end of this lap. But Two Awful Guys, or Madbird in the chat, just picking up on what I was trying to say in between these very quick laps, is that they are doing a good job on the F1 channel as Resist goes to the top of uploading old classic races in high resolution, and that was definitely something that I enjoyed watching when we didn't have any new Formula One races to watch at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think KO and Foxtel were doing similar things as well, so I was able to catch a few old races like that. And it's always strange, well, not strange, it's funny to sort of hear people on like Reddit and forums and whatnot waxing lyrical about, oh, it was so much better and Resist wasn't able to improve that second time around, but he didn't need to because he was top of the timesheets already, and Resist currently leads qualifying provisionally. And now we're seeing Brenton Foley pulling out on the track very sideways like as he goes around. He's almost doing this just to entertain us. I reckon you must be listening to the broadcast. If he's there, just do a sneaky burnout through turn 3 here, mate. Let's see what you can do.
It's all about momentum. He doesn't want to do a burnout. He's had to relearn how to drive the car tonight because his normal driving style doesn't actually work too well on an oval where fast is smooth and smooth is fast.
That's exactly right. So it's a bit of a challenge here for Brenton Foley. He's a bit further down in the practice standings than he normally would like, but we'll see what he can do in qualifying, and of course we'll see how quickly he can keep learning the track throughout the race. He's up almost 0.2 of a second through that first half of the circuit. Will he be able to carry much pace on the back straight? Let's have a look and see the split as it comes through. A little bit more, so he's still up about 0.2 on resist time. And for a first out lap, this is a pretty good effort for Brenton Foley. As he crosses the line, it's going to look like a 31.156, and he's
0.222 up on resist.
He is indeed, and for whatever reason it was showing up as red on my timing down the bottom, so I was quite confused there. But he has gone quickest, and he is still improving on that time.
Chipping away, another 0.03 of a second up on the first sector split for his first flying lap. Let's see if he can improve. We're seeing a bit of a trend of people not improving on their second flying lap, which is a bit surprising to me. But he's up by a 10th there, and then he loses it through the final part. That's, once again, very, very bizarre.
Proving to be a pretty tricky final corner that only a few of the guys are able to master. And now we've got Bagsy on track, who is the guy who chose this track, of course. All the circuits on the calendar are nominated each by a driver, and this is the one that Bagsy has chosen too. the behest of some of the other drivers, or maybe
Yeah.
that's not the word I'm looking
As
for.
soon as a few of the drivers found out that this was an oval, because they didn't actually know what Nazareth was, not being NASCAR fans, they said, of course Bagsy picked it.
Well, he's not doing too great at the moment. He's down at 10th in the first split. As he comes down the back straight, he's lost another 10th, as a matter of fact. So his last shot of redemption is going to be his second lap. It's interesting to note at this track, most ovals that you would see in this kind of racing are pretty much flat, but this one has an elevation difference of 10 metres between the exit of turn 2 and the start of turn 3. So in other words, the back stretch slopes down 10 metres from the start to the finish.
So it's like the lords of racetracks.
It is, and it spends the rest of the lap going back uphill, so you can carry a little bit of momentum down the back straight, but you have to be careful, and you can't really treat the two corners exactly the same. Even though they're very similar profiles, you're going to be carrying a bit more speed, and your brakes are going to be a little bit less effective, and Bagsy's not able to improve on his first lap. He crosses the line, and it's only good enough for second. He does a little bit better there, but he's still almost 4/10 of a second slower than Brenton Foley.
As we cut to Scott Murrell, he was absolutely hanging the rear out as he's coming out of the pits, so he's definitely signalled his intentions early in this outlap as to what he wants to do, and that's to get some temperature in those rears.
Indeed, he's looking pretty semi-sideways as he goes around the final corner there. So this guy has got this guy has got a bit of oval experience on the dirt tracks. I don't know what he's sort of been doing in terms of the paved ovals, as we're seeing here. But we will start getting indications as he goes through those sector splits. Scott Murrell is only marginally down, less than 1/10 of a second on Brenton Foley's time on his first lap around. So things are still looking pretty good. It's still marginal. As he comes across the second split at the end of the straight, he's lost a bit more time. There goes a couple of extra tenths. So that'll be something to look out for.
Well, that's interesting. Foley's sitting pretty right now. If he can manage to stay where he is now, it's just Berto and Xeris left to set lap times. Nether, it looks like, has elected not to set a lap time in this qualifying session. Although Scott Murrell is on the improve. Looks like he's getting a little bit faster through the second lap.
He's up on his personal best, but only by 0.027 of a second, and he's still down on Brenton Foley's time. So at the moment, he's going to cross the line, and he will be second. He will move ahead of Bagsy by just under 1/10 of a second. But Brenton Foley is still almost 3/10 clear in the lead at the moment.
Well, that means we're now turning our attention to Berto. Berto is another driver who's got quite a bit of oval experience, and he has struggled a little bit, it has to be said, in these cars. He's had quite a few spins in some of the races that we've done after having a very, very strong season last time out, and challenging at times for the lead of the championship. But this time, I think in the ovals, he's sort of bucking the trend of this season, where he's had the pace, but he's not quite had it in the race to bring home the results that he might have liked.
Yeah, he's definitely looking a little bit better at this Nazareth Speedway, although he is still down on Brenton Foley's time. So Brenton Foley's looking for a little bit of an upset in qualifying as it stands. But Berto hasn't lost very much pace on the back straight. He's gone from being 0.09 of a second down to just 0.02. A quarter of a tenth is the gap now through that first sector, and he's now 0.05 of a second is the gap at the end of his first lap. So he's very, very close to Brenton Foley's time, and he's going to have that extra momentum going around the second lap, and he's still shaving time off his PV, but he's definitely better than he was last time around, but he's still slower than Brenton Foley on paper as it stands. He's not gone green yet, and he's lost a little bit more time there as well. So just floating around the same lap time that he was putting down. Can he make up some pace in the final part of the track? Yes, he goes pole position by 0.019 of a second, the barest of margins. Berto is provisional pole, but we've got one driver to the left. He's in a purple and green car. You know who it is, folks. It is Xeris.
The 7-time champion, and last time that Apex Rewing visited an oval, he was absolutely dominant, winning in that occasion from Sam Smith, who's not here, and Stairs, who's not here, at least not in race form. And so we're going to have a completely new podium from an oval point of view, unless Xeris can take pole position and a victory.
Well, if you can count on anybody to do that, it will be Xeris. But yeah, anything can really happen, especially at a track like this where there's not really any margin for error If you go wide, he's green on both sectors in his PB, and he's up 0.044 on Berto's time, so he's looking very, very quick. But as I was saying, there's no margin for error here. If you go wide, you're hitting the fence and you're done, basically, in these cars. He's still up, even though he's down in his PB through the first sector. As he crosses the line, that will be good enough for pole position.
This is a glory run now.
A second lap. This is basically a victory lap for Xeris. So the grid for this race here at Nazareth Speedway will be Xeris starting on pole position, with Berto alongside for the double file start in second on the outside lane. On the inside of the second row will be Brenton Foley with Scott Murrell on the outside. Third row, Josh Bagsy, starting from P5, will be inside Resist, who will be starting on the outside of that third row. Roadhog, P7, is ahead of Zarlingier in 8th. Rody, the slowest of the qualifiers, with a gap of 1.225 seconds to the leader, will be starting from 9th, and Netherrealmian, who has not qualified, will be at the back of the grid. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is qualifying. We'll be moving into a short warm-up session very shortly.
Absolutely. We will take a quick break as it is a long race, so we can replenish our fluids and remove any from our body that we may need to. And here's Madbird in healthier times.
Welcome backstage for the Automobilista Supercars Championship Bathurst 1000 stream, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. This is just to give you a little look at our setup for the race today. So we've got our big main camera here, which is shooting our desk there. So that's when we're to camera, doing our little wrap-ups and stuff. That's where we're going to be. We've got these lovely green things, just sort of fake foliage to give us a bit of sound muffling, and also some very classy flamingo designs. We've got James behind the camera, currently filming me as I'm speaking. Over here, we've got Stairs currently doing something very important before the stream begins. And indeed, he's got some gaffer tape, so we won't interrupt him. But if you just come over here, you can see the enormous setup that we have. We've got 4 monitors, one of which is a TV, on which you can see Maddie Dunlop and Josh Bagsy. Bagsy's currently completing a Rubik's Cube, so you can see we're intelligent and talented here at Apex Rear Wing. So we've got 3 keyboards. We have got 3 mice. We have got a switcher. We have got 4 monitors. We're going to have 3 computers running. If you just come down here really quick, you can see we've got 1 computer over here, and then we've got another one here, and then we've got a third one over here. So lots and lots of technology back here. You know, the 21st century, isn't it? So, and then through this door over here, if you just have we probably don't need to go in there, but if you just pop over here, James, and just have a sneaky peek through there, you'll be able to see that is our Kart FX bunker, where we've got Michael Zalavari doing some very important work on the whiteboard. So that's just a quick little brief look at the backstage here for the Automobilista Supercars Championship Bathurst 1000, and hope you've enjoyed.
Guys, I've done it again.
Welcome back, everyone, to where are we? Nazareth. There's been a murder during the break. The person who committed the murder is Matt Dunlop.
Yep.
And the victim is Australia's cricket team. Matt Dunlop, what did you say to me? Just as I was looking at the screen, you said something to do with, I don't even want to talk about the cricket. Because
as soon as I do, I know Maxwell will get caught. And then I look over, and Carey was getting run out.
Yeah.
And Carey is gone.
Finishing that sentence.
He has been run out by Virat Kohli off the delivery of Rahul for 38 off 42, which leaves Maxwell as one of our only hopes. But now Agar's coming in, so I'm a little bit more hopeful about that. But that is the last thing I will say about the cricket tonight, I promise.
Yeah, now, honestly, during that qualifying session, Carey and Maxwell were doing quite well. They were chipping away at the target score, and we hadn't talked about it for about an hour, and then that happened. I cannot believe it.
I can believe it, but I don't. I'm not proud of it. I'm really not proud of my uncanny ability to place curses on anything that I happen to be watching. And just talking about in passing, if you're watching now here at Apex Rear Wing, we are not racing just yet. We are still in warm-up, just doing some practice racing, because this might be the first time that a lot of these guys have actually had a chance to run side-by-side on an oval track. So this will be one of the most valuable warm-up sessions of the season.
It will. It's a bit of a complicated start procedure. Berto had to go through a little bit of a briefing just before the start of the qualifying session, which, Matty, you and I were privy to, because I think as much as anything we needed to hear what Berto had to say as much as the drivers did.
Yeah, absolutely. He covered a few things regarding pit lane entry and exit procedure, what the safety car does, when it does it, when to be wary of penalties and things like that. So the main things that we took away from it, apart from what we discussed already, is that when you're coming up to a safety car restart, which is single file, compared to a race start, which is double file, you've got to try not to get a jump. You can't put the foot down until... Oh, Resist is going straight into the fence there, and he's had a big accident. You can't put the foot down until the green light comes on, so you can't really leave a gap either and get a run early, because it'll catch you if you try to accelerate, even if you don't pass anyone before the start-finish line on a restart. So got to be nice and orderly, nice and clean there. We're just seeing a replay of what happened to him. I think he just got a little bit looser on his own, and he just smacked... Oh, he would have just grazed that inside wall if he hit it at all, and then the bonnets on these cars did as the bonnets normally do, and they just vanish as soon as you touch something, and that's Resist back to the garage, but I'm sure he'll be back out for warm-up in a little bit.
And that is the sort of thing that would bring out the safety car in this game for a spin of that nature, even a spin not quite as dramatic as that one. So even just a little one where you don't hit the wall could bring out the safety car. Basically, if you lose your momentum and have to sort of start from zero in terms of speed, that will be enough to trigger it in most cases, I've been led to believe.
And even if that happens to you, you kind of want a safety car to come out, because if you lose that much momentum, you're going to get lapped in 3 laps time. So you really want to be able to catch up to the back of the queue as soon as you can and not lose a lap if at all possible. Pit strategy is really going to be interesting, because I'm not sure what the protocol is or the etiquette in terms of lapping and unlapping, because it's so short and there's bound to be people finishing off the lead lap for sure. And they'll all be at relatively similar pace stairs.
Yeah, and you make a good point, actually. When they do come in for their stops, people are going to go a lap down, even if they are fighting for the lead of the race. So that'll be interesting, as if people are pitting on different laps to the guys that they're battling, they'll actually be separated by a gap that's more than a lap.
Yeah, that's right. So I imagine that will sort of have to go out the window a little bit, and it'll be open slather depending on what lap you're on. Obviously, if you're 3 laps down and you're not on the pace, then you don't want to be getting involved in a lead battle that you have no business being in. But if you are the leader, you want to be trying your best to try and do that unlapping as quickly as you can, as cleanly as you can, really.
Two awful guys. Madbird once again in the chat, tempting fate by asking us for our predictions on the first car to loop it. That's a dangerous game we're playing.
It is. And I'm going to go with...
Go on.
Ooh. I'm going to go... Because... Oh, Berto just had a big hit there. Because we don't want to curse Resist the wrong way, I'm going to curse him the right way and say that he will be the first to loop it, and hopefully hopefully it turns into a negative curse, and he does well. But I didn't. You didn't hear me just saying that.
No, I didn't. Everyone else on the broadcast did, though.
Oh, that's a shame.
Here is Berto looping it. Very easy to do, it appears, in these cars. I don't know whether it was just a gear change at the wrong moment, but that looked like it was sort of into the corner as opposed to out of it.
Looked like a bit of a jolt. He could have been touched, or it may have been a missed gear, like you mentioned, so it's hard to tell.
Maybe we'll go and have another look at that to see if he did catch a bit of contact from one of the other drivers.
Just while we've got a bit of time before the race starts, and while you're going to look through the replays, those of you who follow Formula 1 will have noticed there's been a hell of a lot of silly season news happening in probably the last 24 hours, not just for next season, but also for the next race.
We've got a silly season between the first and second Bahrain race.
We really do indeed, because we've had a couple of replacement drivers coming in. So Pietro Fittipaldi will be filling in for Grosjean at Haas. And then because Lewis Hamilton's tested positive for COVID, they needed someone to fill his seat, and they've called up George Russell from Williams to take that spot, which has gotten a lot of people very, very excited, myself included. And It is. It's official now, and Jack
Oh.
Aitken will be coming in from Formula 2 to replace him at Williams.
Oh, I like Jack Aitken. He's
He's a lovely bloke. Yeah, from everything I've seen about him. And so that'll be really good to see. And in terms of next year, I think today they both announced that Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher will be the drivers for Haas, which will be... a lot of people don't seem too impressed about Nikita Mazepin because he's a paid driver.
Isn't he?
And he's a little bit of a dick if you ask the right people, but he's quick, so it's
Unless
hard
you
to
get
really...
Dan Ticktum to teammate him.
Oh God, no.
That could be that would be probably the least popular driver lineup a team has had since Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean. Oh,
Lewis is
I guess
painful
Haas-
enough to listen to on the radio during the race. If you get Dan Ticktum in, I've never heard him not complaining on the radio. It's just unbelievable how one person can have that much negative energy manifesting within themselves.
so who do you think is going to replace Max Verstappen and Alexander Albon when they both get COVID positive tests during the week because they were on the podium without masks with Lewis Hamilton on the weekend?
Oh, that's very true indeed. Haven't heard about that. I imagine they would have all been getting tested at the same time as Lewis. So if they were fine, then they'll be fine now. Because they can't call up Yuki Tsunoda because he doesn't have the super license points yet, and he's probably the best ranked driver in Red Bull's fraternity. So who would Red Bull pull? I imagine they would grab somebody like
Hulkenberg?
Hulkenberg, perhaps. Brendan Hartley could do it. He'll still have a super license because he's raced in the last 3 years, so he would be able to. Otherwise,
Surely they'd have to bend a few rules. If they had 4 drivers standing up to fill positions for one race, then I don't know if there are four drivers sort of in position to take those spots who have super licenses without a few of those credentials being fast forwarded a little bit. Everyone's saying Hulk. Pastor Maldonado, I don't know if he still has a super license.
no, I don't think he would, because a lot of the super license stuff with the drivers coming into Formula 1 next year are based on pending results in the Formula 2 championship, of course. So you wouldn't even be able to get Robert Schwartzman in or anybody like that, or Callum Ilott for that fact. So, and of course, they're both in the Ferrari Academy, I believe.
Actually,
So
did I read earlier, about an hour ago, that Mick Schumacher has been confirmed for next year?
He has, yeah. So Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher are going to be teammates at Haas next year.
There you go.
There you go, indeed. And also, for the Aussies out there, Oscar Piastri, who is a Formula 3 champion, has been confirmed as being driving in Formula 2 for the same Prema team, which we know is very, very quick because Mick Schumacher has been racing for them, as has Robert Schwartzman this season. So Oscar Piastri, the Melburnian, will be partnering Robert Schwartzman in the Formula 2 Prema team next year. And that, I think, personally for me, is one of the most exciting aspects of silly season.
Yeah, it's good news. Good news that we seem to have a bit of a succession plan in place for the Italian-Australian driver on the grid.
Indeed, we do. I think he came out in an interview and he said not long ago that he was probably going to be done with the sport by the time he's in his late 30s, which isn't too far away. I think he's something like 32 at the moment.
Wow.
So it's hard to imagine that Ricciardo is anything but young, but I guess I'm just getting old at a very rapid pace and it's scary.
Well, he's one of a growing number of drivers on the grid a shrinking number of drivers on the grid who are actually older than myself, which I think currently includes Sergio Perez, which will be disappearing next year, Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton, Kimi Raikkonen, and Romain Grosjean. Actually, I'm not sure.
You'll have
exactly
Alonso coming back in next year.
Kevin Magnussen, how old is he?
He's pretty young as well. I think he'd be... I'm just going to have a quick look while we're waiting for the race to start, but this race is going to be starting very, very quickly, so I'll make it very speedy. Kevin Magnussen, Danish racing driver, 5th of October 1992. He is 28.
5th of October. He's got the same birthday as me.
Oh, there you go.
Except he's 2 years younger than I am.
I think I share a birthday with Robert Kubica.
Oh, there you go. He's a bit older than you.
He is, quite a bit.
All right, well, we're on the racetrack, Madbird. Maddie, there we go. We're one all now. You've called me Madbird, and I've called you Madbird. Safety
So we're
car.
getting ready. Oh, I'll leave it to you.
Well, yes. Now, where does the race start? Well, unfortunately, the camera angles aren't terrific on this racetrack, but the cars will be given the green flag, and the safety car is supposed to be coming in there, but it's got the wrong AI line. It's going in through that little X. So now the drivers will be given the green flag, and we will get racing. So Xeris on the inside, Birdo on the outside. We've got Scott Murrell and Brenton Foley in behind. Looks like Scott Murrell's got a good start around the outside into third place. Xeris on the inside leads the way.
He certainly does. It was close there at the start. I saw Birdo starting to edge ahead just a little bit as they rounded the trial, but Xeris has pulled into the lead. So as they come towards turn 3 now and they come to the line, we'll be able to do a quick little stock take before pit stop start to see what the running orders shifted like after the start. So Xeris leads, Birdo. Scott Murrell's up to third. Brenton Foley's down to fourth. Bagsy, Resist is P5 and 6 respectively. Zarlingier's up a spot. Roadie's up a spot into 8th. Netherelmi is up a spot. And Roadhog has dropped down 3 into 10th. And he's currently sitting at the back of the field. But we know he's pretty quick, so he could be fighting for positions very, very soon indeed.
So already we've got a train of cars sitting in the slipstream trying to save a bit of fuel. Foley going around the outside line there with Scott Murrell taking the lower line. And everyone just sort of sitting in behind. Xeris is the pioneer at the moment, who's cutting a hole in the air for everyone else behind him.
Yeah, it's always a game of drafting, this oval style racing, because you're doing a lot more of the work when you're in the lead of the race. And especially when it gets to the closing stages, you sort of want to be able to sit back a little bit so you can slingshot here. But there's not too many drafting opportunities before the finish line just out of this turn 3 here, because it's such a short straight. So any of that last minute, any of that last minute moving you have to do has to be down the back straight. So your moves in the later stages of the race have to be very, very premeditated.
Madbird in the chat noting that he saw a few brake lights there and exclaiming his surprise that they had to brake, as you can see there from Birdo. Quite a lengthy period of time actually on the brakes as Scott Murrell goes to the inside of Birdo there.
Yeah, definitely. So brake temperatures might start becoming a factor as the race wears on. Tyre temperatures will certainly be very high, but that won't be too important once they come in to change tyres. Whether they decide to change all 4 tyres when they come into the pits is going to be interesting to see as well, because I believe that the fronts and the rears are done separately, and if you can save time on one of those, it's definitely worth it.
So this is Scott Murrell. Looks like he seems to have got the job done on Birdo there. They spend about a lap or so side by side, and that has allowed Xeris to get a bit of a break now. He has 1 second of an advantage. You can see visually how much that equates to in distance on that shot.
Yeah, you can chalk up the fastest lap as well with a 30.96 on that last tour around Nazareth. So he's looking pretty speedy up the front, which definitely helps because he doesn't have anyone trying to battle him at the moment. But Scott Murrell has moved up into 2nd position. So that oval experience is starting to pay off. This on board with Bagsy, who's drifting a little bit wide on the exit, loses just an iota of pace, but around a track like this, an iota of pace is enough to sort of cause a pretty big dent in your overall speed.
Yeah, so the group of 3 cars just up ahead of him, starting to break away a little bit. Again, we've got Scott Murrell and Birdo going side by side, so this is all slowing them down a little bit and helping out Xeris.
Yeah, it certainly is. He's got no problems up the front at the moment. He is happily just plugging along. Madbird in the chat saying, this is terrifying. And to be honest, if I was doing something similar to this, I would probably be slurring my britches indeed, because this is not a kind of racing I'm very used to at all. I might have dabbled with a little bit of NR 2003 back in the day, but I was awful at that, and I would be terrible at this, I'm sure. Birdo's trying to bump draft Scott Murrell down the back straight here. Ooh. Nothing doing at the moment. He's trying to find an inside line that doesn't really exist. He's bump drafting him all the way around to turn 3, as a matter of fact. And Birdo's got a fender on the inside of Scott Murrell's line there at the moment, but nothing doing. We've got a yellow flag.
Safety car.
That's the safety car. Roadie's around.
Yes, he is. So let's see if we can find a replay, catch what happened to Roadie. So that'll be no doubt a frustration for Xeris, who started to build a bit of a gap, and it looks like it was all by himself that Roadie looped it. Who had Roadie on their bingo card for the first spin of the race?
I certainly didn't. I think I still had Resist, so my anti-curse apparently seems to be working quite well at the moment, although Resist is down a spot from where he started in 7th behind his teammate Zarlingier in P6 at the moment. and they will be crossing the line now under yellow conditions, and Xeris has caught the back of the safety car on lap 10. There's only been 5 minutes of running so far, so I highly doubt that anybody's going to be coming in for pit stops at this stage,
Yeah,
because you'll be
isn't it? But it
immediately put a lap down.
puts you off strategy, doesn't it? And maybe off strategy might be the thing for someone to throw a cat amongst the pigeons.
Well, unless you've taken the time to calculate how many laps you can get done in 1 hour, exactly plus 1 lap, then you can't really be playing around with strategy too much at the moment. It's something you're sort of better suited to just sit back and figure out as the race wears on, because it becomes a lot easier as you get to the pointy end, as you work out your stints.
The rate they're going, they'll get somewhere in the order of about 120 laps, which is a fair bit.
True. That is quite a bit indeed.
Depends how long we stay behind the safety car during this race, of course. That's going to certainly slow the rate, but wouldn't be surprised to see 3 digits in that lap column by the end of this race.
Yeah, and that'll affect the strategy in its own right. So the normal thing you'd base it off at a track like this is how much time you can run for before you have to come into the pits. But when the safety car comes out like this, you can just go a little bit easier on the car. I don't actually know how long the safety car periods last, because the lights are still flashing at the moment. There's every chance it could just dart off at the last moment without really any warning and throw the drivers for a bit of a loop. But to be honest, now that I think of it, I imagine they're getting a warning through the game saying safety car in this lap, and then they'll start forming up for a single file restart.
We won't get too much of a warning because the safety car doesn't actually peel off at the correct point of the racetrack. You can sort of see, we're looking at the onboard now of Xeris, the pit exit there, which becomes the pit entry along this back straight where the black and yellow dotted line is. A little bit further on, we're coming along to, here it is. So that's where cars exit the pits and also where they enter the pits, and it takes you almost halfway around the lap before you actually get to the pits. But the safety car doesn't use that to peel off. It uses a piece of tarmac apron sort of just near that, or there's sort of like a gap in that grass that we're looking at just there on the left. That's where the safety car actually peels off. So it hasn't peeled off on this occasion. We're going around another time.
So that's another reason why you're going to lose so much time when you come in for a pit stop, because not only is it such a short track, but the pit entry and exit lanes are so massively long. They're basically the entire track, and there's no banking on them. So you have to go quite a bit slower through them than you normally would around the track itself. And because it's basically a whole lap that's doing that pace, you're going to be losing a drastic amount of time. Once it starts happening, we'll be able to get a good gauge of what the pit delta around here actually is. Haven't had a chance to time it in practice, but I'll keep you posted.
So we'll just see if the safety car takes us around one more time. Now we've got this corner to go through. If we do end up with another lap behind the safety car, we will take you through a bit of a stock take, but it can all happen so quickly around such a short lap, so we'll just wait and see whether we do indeed get a restart on this occasion.
Lights are out.
We are getting a restart. Safety car in, and Scott Murrell all over the back of Xeris. They've all been given the green light, and look at Birdo up the inside trying to wrestle back second place from Scott Murrell there, and they go side by side through there. Looks like Foley lost out a little bit. Behind them, Bagsy's got a bit of a train of cars, the 2 Adidas branded USSR cars behind them.
Good call from Birdo there on the immediately on the restart, because obviously when the field's so bunched up like this, it's the best time to try a pass, and you want to get in front of someone like Scott Murrell as soon as you can. But Scott Murrell's already back in front of him, trying to take a fast outside line through turn 3, and Xeris, as he does, is already streaking ahead by a gap of what appears to be around 0.8 of a second. So in classic Xeris fashion, he's streaking away at the front, and Scott Murrell still holding off Birdo in second, and the rest of the field jostles behind them.
Foley nearly made his way past Birdo. He's got a decent run actually down the back straight here, but he tried to make the move around the outside on the opening lap there, the opening lap after the first safety car, and he's just had to fall back a little bit here, but fighty from Foley.
Yeah, definitely. He's got a bit of a gap now, and that gap at the front has actually come down a little bit. Scott Murrell's brought it within half a second of Xeris, and he's making it a little bit more time up through turn 2 as well, so he might be on for half a draft as they go down the back straight a little bit, and can slowly chip his way into Xeris' lead as the laps wear on. So we might see some challenging for the lead here pretty soon, as we see some big slides all the way up and down the field. Bagsy sent himself a little bit wide there, so Zalnagi is going to be licking his lips. Hopefully he can capitalise on that one for his sake. side by side at the back between Roadhog and Roadie as well, and Roadie moves back up to 9th.
Yeah, Foley was about 45 degrees to the racing line as well, while we were watching from the onboard of Bagsy behind, who's again going a little bit wide through there. But it hasn't cost Foley too much time. He's still pretty close to the back of Berto. And they're all sort of, I think the tyres are starting to wear out a little bit, even though we're only 10 minutes into the race. We have done 17 laps. That's a lot of cornering. And so you can see everyone just sort of, I think there's a fair bit of understeer from the leading guys. Scott Murrell's breaking away a little bit from Birdo, but everyone seemed to be sort of drifting to the higher side of the racetrack, and I don't think they wanted to as much as they were.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a challenge of time management this race. That's going to be what determines your overall pace and how well you can just keep your stuff in good order and not burn through your rubber too quickly at all, because we're starting to see, as you were saying, a lot of guys understeering quite a bit, and they'll be wanting to minimise that as much as they can. I just saw Bagsy scrape the wall on the entrance to turn 2. Zarling is taken to the grass as well, so concentration is going to be another massive factor, because that's always important in sim racing. But at a track like this, where it's so uniform and so repetitive, your mind would definitely start to wander if it's not a kind of racing you're familiar with. So you have to be able to stay focused for the entire hour that you're here and not get complacent, not start drifting out of concentration and into the wall.
Yeah, and a couple of guys in the chat wondering how many safety cars there'll be. We've only had the one in 10 minutes. Some of them calling 7. Rodney Andrews or Tyrrell's calling 9. I think that's a little bit more than we'll get, because we've got another 5 minutes since we've had a spinner, Brody being the first one. So I reckon maybe four safety cars, and most, in fact, there's the second one. So my guess is already actually looking not very good.
And that's Roadhog, who's found himself in pit entry after spinning what looks to be all on his own on the exit of turn 3. So that'll be another safety car. And he's not even... Oh, Roadie's DNF'd. So I'm not sure what's happened there. He may have done that all on his own, or he had a technical issue of some sort.
It happened in front of Roadie. Roadie crashed in front of Roadie. So Roadie, with an H, spun into the wall, and Roadhog spun almost in sympathy.
Trying to avoid. Oh, so I see.
Catch that on board. This is what the view was from Roadhog. And, he was going side by side there with Resist.
Yeah.
Bumped doors, and then Roadie just sort of, almost in sympathy, as you said, going into the pits. I wonder if you get a speeding pit lane penalty for entering.
You would
the pit
hope not if you're going in backwards.
You would hope not. But that's him out of the race. That's Roadie out of the race. So that's one less driver to cause safety cars. Our commiserations, of course, go to Roadie. No Rhodium Dream occurring tonight.
F's in the chat for the Rhodium. Lucky Resist says, Madbird, that was close. I definitely agree. I'd love to be able to see that from the rear bumper of Resist, because after those two tangled a little bit side by side, when Roadie was swinging back around on the oversteer, he was so close to just nailing the back quarter panel of Resist's car and turning into a 3-car pileup. Thankfully, that hasn't happened. And that is now 2 safety cars indeed, as Madbird says in the chat. I'm going to go with my prediction being 6. And we've got our first pit stop. Netherrealmian's come in for a stop.
Netherrealmian in, so first man to pull the trigger on the pit stops. And that might end up being a good call, because we are now a bit further into the race, 15 minutes almost. And Nether is just off to catch the back of the pack, and he's still on the lead lap, crucially.
Yeah, he is. So that'll be a really important thing, because if you pit during green flag running, you're almost certainly going to be losing laps as
Foley's in.
Foley's in. I think he's realised the exact same thing. He's still out on track in my camera angle, or I'm still looking at replay, aren't I? I certainly am. So
there he goes.
Foley is indeed in the pits.
That could be a big call in this race. Brenton Foley in. If he can stay on the lead lap, which you would expect that he can, given that the train is still on under the safety car. But Foley in the pits now. That could be a race-winning call from Brenton Foley.
It could be, but there's every chance he could throw it away with another similar call in the opposite direction, or someone else could pick something up that'll be a little bit advantageous to themselves. But that, I reckon, is the strat. Take your pit stops under the safety cars, because we're going to be seeing a lot of them.
So a quick stock take. We've got Zira still leading away from pole position. Behind him, Scott Murrell, who's been doing very well in this race, up 2 positions from where he started, as we see Bagsy peeling off to take a pit stop. Birdo's down 1, so he started on the front row. Zarlinger, has to be said, has done a terrific job, up 4 positions ahead of his teammate in Resist, who's up 1 spot. That's mainly due to a couple of people pitting in front of him. And then we've got Roadhog in 6th place, same deal for him. Netherrealmian, despite making a pit stop, has improved 3 spots from where he started, and that's because Brenton Foley and Josh Bagsy have both made pit stops. Bagsy is just in the process of completing his pit stop, and then Rhodey has DNF. So an interesting little cauldron of activity this race is so far.
Indeed it is. We're just waiting for the lights to go out on the safety car. There's not a huge amount happening on track, and there we go. They're right now. The safety car's peeling in. We're on for a restart, folks. Xerus is going to be leading the way. We're still yellow and we're green now, so who's going to get the jump? Xerus, as always, is leading by a long shot, and Birdo's going to try and pull around the outside of Scott Murrell. Nothing really doing there. Scott Murrell still holds on to second, but Birdo's trying to pull the outside line around turn 1, and he's got Zarlinger right behind him. He's up 4 spots, having not taken a pit stop there. So he's trying to push up as far as he can before he comes in for his first stop, and he's all over the back of Birdo, trying to challenge for what would be a podium spot. Resist is behind in 5th, with Nether now up to P6. Roadhog is 7th, so he's fallen down another spot. Brenton Foley is down to 8th. Josh Bagsy is still circulating back in 9th. He's a long way off the pack at the moment, and it's going to take him quite some time to catch up because he doesn't have the draft in his disposal.
Well, let's see what the progress is of the guys who took pit stops during that safety car period, because if they took tyres, then that means they should have a significant grip advantage in these early stages. But of course, there will be a bit of field spread in these early days. Looks like Josh Bagsy didn't actually catch the back of the train before the safety car went in, because he still has a 7-second gap, whereas everyone else bunched up to within 3.
Yeah, that's right. So he'll be hoping for another safety car pretty soon, so he'll be able to catch back up. But of course, when that happens, everybody else is going to be coming into the pits as well. So that's going to throw the strategy way out the window. So it's really all over the place at the moment as everyone started taking stops. Resist and Brenton Foley are on very different levels of pace, I'm seeing here through turn 1. So that could be a benefit of those fresh tyres that Foley's put on his car.
So Birdo looks like he's giving Scott Murrell something to think about at the moment. So those two have been switching back and forth between 2nd and 3rd for the entire race so far. And Zarlinger in behind them doing a good job as well. So Birdo, just in the last lap or so, has lost a few car lengths to Scott Murrell. And Scott Murrell, in turn, about half a second behind Xerus, who I think himself is starting to struggle a little bit with those tyres. It looked like he was a little bit sideways through that previous corner.
You know, I'm starting to wonder if there's a different commentary style that has to be employed for oval racing. I'm thinking that the more, like, think back to some of the, a bit of a moment there for Scott Murrell. The commentary that I've heard from NASCAR racing is they always have this thing where they're silent for the first lap after the restart, sort of, because there's so much happening on, track they can't possibly call all of it. So instead of filling the airspace with noise, they just let the viewer watch what's happening because it's all in camera shot at one time. And then especially commentators like Mike Joy, who's legendary in NASCAR, will always just say very short, sharp things and only point out very specific bits of info. And of course, you're always going to have, Birdo's trying for a bump draft, and he's almost tipped Scott Murrell around there. And that bump draft might have worked out because they're side by side down the main straight, and Birdo's on the inside. He'll have the line. Does he have the braking prowess? He certainly does, and that's put him up into 2nd place.
Good job there from Birdo, but Scott Murrell's coming back on the inside. He has the run, and it looks like he's going to get that job done pretty much no problem whatsoever. Birdo's going to have to try around the outside, but I don't think he's going to get the job done there.
Great racing from these two guys, and it's a good chance for us to see who's strong in what parts of the track as Scott Murrell runs wide again through turn 1. Birdo's cutting it nice and close to the apex, and they're side by side or near enough to it once again. Scott Murrell has marginally more speed. Do you reckon he's going to try and pull across him at turn 3? He's not, but he's going to hold around the outside, and there's no real gains being made by Birdo on the inside, so Scott Murrell still has the lead from that battle.
Zarlinger having an absolute grandstand front row view of that one. And this battle continues. Two awful guys. Madbird suggesting that if there's no more safety cars, the ones who pitted under the safety car will be really disadvantaged. I don't know if that's true, because I don't think they can do it on one stop. So yes, they will need to make another pit stop. But they have pitted earlier, so they won't have to take on as much fuel, so they might be able to get back some of the positions that they've lost. Foley has made his way up to 6th already.
Besides, if we're seeing more racing like this, I'm sure there's going to be more safety cars this race.
That's true. That's a big call from the person who said that there would be 7 safety cars in this race, after 2 suggesting that there might not be any more.
Yeah, cop that, Madbird.
It looks like Birdo just copped a bit of a hit, or Scott Murrell copped a bit of a hit from Birdo, although I might be talking rubbish. Though it's a bit of a distance from the onboard shot of Zallinger, who's having a huge moment there. Way too much curb on the inside and nearly lost it.
I really should have reset my my replay lap time on my personal client here of Automobilista, because when I hit the replay button to go and see what's happened, I've lost track of what lap I'm on. Nether's on the inside of Zallinger now for 4th position as they go down the back straight. We can't see through all the motorhomes there. Now we're getting a good inside view. Zallinger is very wide through turn 3. He's very sideways as well, and Nether is smooth as you like. They're side by side as they run down the triover now, but Zallinger just has that little bit more pace on the exit of that corner, and he'll hold the lead for now.
So Nether, the leading car to have made a pit stop, crucially, and looks like he's been able to close down Zallinger. Zallinger, of course, had that moment. I think Nether might have made that move if he didn't just clip the curb on the inside. He himself had a little bit of a moment off the throttle to try and gather the car back up, and he's going to have another go at it. I think he's just sort of regrouping to attack again.
Nether's caught up well as Madbird's saying in the chat. He's up to 5th at the moment, and I'm looking through the rest of the field to see who else is battling. We're having a nice scrap between Josh Bagsy and Resist for 7th position at the moment, and those two are all over each other. So great racing all the way up and down the field.
Yeah, so Foley has cleared. These guys, but he was ahead of Bagsy anyway. So I'm wondering why Resist is behind Bagsy and Roadhog. They haven't made a pit stop. I'm wondering if they've just had a moment somewhere and lost that, because Bagsy was a long way behind the back of the field before.
Yeah, and Resist was a little bit further up from what I remember, although I think he was languishing down at the back of the field. Of course, he was in that incident with Roadhog and Roadie at the very back, so he may not have been able to progress too much, and I don't know if the ovals are treating him too well.
Berto and Scott Murrell have been side by side in the previous lap. Nether and Zallinger are side by side at the moment. Nether looking like he's got that job done actually on Zallinger, so great job from Nether. We'll see what sort of pace he has now, whether he can start to close in on Scott Murrell, who has much older tyres than he does, and it looks like Zallinger's opting to take the pit lane.
He certainly is. So Zallinger's taking a punt on a green flag stop, and we'll see how that works for him. He's able to carry a little bit of speed through that pit entry lane, but that'll be a long one. And because he was battling with, I've got to remember who he was racing at the time. I think he was up in, I've already forgotten because I'm trying to work out the pit delta from where that happened. So I'll just try my best to figure that one out. He was racing with Nether, so I'll just see what the margin is to Nether by the time he exits onto the back straight.
Yeah, that'll be a crucial thing. It's a long pit stop here for Zallinger, still stationary, obviously going to the back of the field. You definitely can see that he's gone a lap down there. He was only, what was it, about 5 seconds off the lead when he came in, but it's enough to go a lap down. Zira still leads the way, and he's made it nearly 25 minutes, I should say, into the race. Can he do this with one stop? That is probably the crucial factor right now. He's only got to make it another 5 minutes to be able to do it on one stop, but we have seen people marginal on fuel on shorter races than this.
Yeah, so it's pretty much exactly a lap down, plus about 2 or 3 seconds is where you've ended up. So you lose about 33 seconds in total from taking a pit stop. Problem is we can't see the exact margins, because if you're a lap down, you're a lap down whether you like it or not. They don't get any more specific than that. So from where he was, it is about 4 seconds off the back of Nether on track he is now, you add on an extra lap time, and that's around about what you're going to be losing when you come into the pits. I don't see anybody else. Oh, actually, Scott Murrell's coming for a green flag stop. So he was battling with Berto, of course, at the front of the field, and they'd started thinning out a little bit at the front there. And now Berto's going to have fresh air in front of him because Xeris is 2.5 seconds up the road.
Oh, Scott Murrell's overshot his
Oh, he
pit box.
has.
That's going to cost him a few seconds. Probably not as bad as it first looked. And he's got back in time to...
Oh, big moment at the back there. Resist. Oh, that'll be great for the replay if he can hold on to it. He certainly has. There'll be no yellow flag for that one. But chuck a look at that replay when you can, Stairs, because that was very, very close to being in the fence for resist.
And it looks like we've found the moment. Here it is. In fact, it started a little bit earlier than that. So here he is. He was under a bit of pressure there from Roadhog. Lost it on the grass. Still one wheel on the grass, and somehow managed to avoid spinning around and causing another safety car. And no damage to boot.
Great save there from Resist, and he's still floating around in 7th at the moment, only ahead of Scott Murrell and Zarlingier, the two drivers who have taken green flag stops. And Scott Murrell has ended up 3.5 seconds ahead of Zarlingier, which is roughly equivalent to their margins before they both pulled into the pits as well. So he actually hasn't lost a massive amount of time, even though he overshot.
But Scott Murrell definitely will need to make another pit stop, and Nether will need to make one more pit stop, of course. But look at the difference. So Nether and Scott Murrell, you'd much rather be in Nether's position than Scott Murrell's position, given he's a lap down. So it's crucial
Absolutely.
now for Xeris' strategy for him to make this on one stop. Otherwise, he's going to have to do 2 stops, and that's going to put him on the back foot in relation to Brenton Foley.
So who have we got at the moment? There's a pretty tight battle here between Josh Bagsy, Brenton Foley, and Zarlingier, who's trying to unlap himself. And he's actually doing very well to get alongside Brenton Foley and do just that. Although he's not being given a huge amount of space there on the inside. Oh, maybe a little bit. So I think the unlapping policy is just sort of, if you're there and you've got the pace, then you can come on through, which is good to know. So it'll make the racing a little bit more exciting for those guys who have pitted on green flag laps. That Bagsy's still holding on pretty well up in 4th at the moment, and Roadhog has just taken a green flag stop as well. So he was already at the back of the field, I believe, in effective terms. So he hasn't lost a huge amount of position there. And if another safety car does come out, he will be in a pretty good spot.
And that's Scott Murrell coming in again.
It is.
What's happened there? That's a disaster.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything come up regarding a penalty. He was, I don't know what the pit lane speed limit is either, but he seems to be going pretty quickly through. He's overshot once again.
Can you believe it?
This is a horrid time for Scott Murrell, and Resist is coming in for a green flag stop as well behind him.
So I can only think Scott Murrell didn't have everything set from a fuel point of view. The race leader Xeris is in, and he hasn't made it halfway in, so he's going to need a splash and dash at the end of the race if he's going to make it to the end. Well, he is going to have to splash and dash. There's no two ways about it. So that very much puts Nether, Bagsy, and Foley in the box seat.
Oh, big moment for Zarlingier. I'm just watching at the moment. He's trying his best to save it around turn 1, I believe. Turn 2, actually, as a matter of fact. Keeps it out of the fence. No yellow flag. Yeah, his tyres will have seen better days. But, of course, like you said, Xeris pitted before the halfway mark of this race. So he will probably have to pit again unless we see more safety cars in the second half of this race than we saw in the first, which I think is pretty unlikely as the field will be thinning out a little bit.
Well,
unless he can fuel save, of course.
The 2 that we've had were caused by Rhodey, who has retired from this race, and since then we haven't had one for about 25 or about 15 minutes now, so we're about 50 seconds away from the halfway point in this race, so my sort of guess of 4 is starting to look a bit more realistic than it was at the 10-minute mark of this race. Xeris is slotted in 4th, and he is crucially still on the lead lap. Berto, with his pit stop, went a lap down. And this will be very important for Xeris. If he can bang out the laps and avoid getting lapped by Nether, it sort of reduces the field of contenders for the win to just the 4 who are currently on that lead lap.
So of all the cars we have on the track at the moment, would I be wrong in saying that Zarlingier is the only one who hasn't pitted?
Let's have a look at the have a look at the live timing and see if we can ascertain whether that is the case or not, because that's very big if true for his
Large if
prospects
correct.
in this race. It is incredibly large if it is right. So just talk amongst yourselves while I appear to have... Here it is. He did actually pit on lap 39. So that explains why he looks like he hasn't made a pit stop. The reason is he has, according to our live timing. So that was about 12 laps ago. So he's on for a 2-stop at the very least.
So the whole field at the moment is on 2 stops for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised to see if there is another safety car from this point on, especially if it's in a little bit further on in the course of this race. If there is another safety car, everyone and their dog will be peeling in for a pit stop. Thick if true, says Madbird in the chat.
The biggest
And
thing,
he's not-
though, the biggest thing here, sorry to cut across you there, Madbird. Matt Dunlop.
Well, that was his comments, but I think you were kind of right there.
The biggest thing will probably be the difference in how long they actually need to be stationary in their pit stops. So Xeris has done a pit stop where I assume he's filled it almost to the brim. When he makes his second pit stop, it will be a very, very short one, just for 2 or 3 laps or so. Whereas Foley will have to put a fair bit more fuel in, because he's when he did his first pit stop, he came in and that was about 15 minutes into the race. So he's sort of probably having 2 pit stops where he's stationary for longer in each pit stop than Xeris would have in his shorter second pit stop.
Yeah, that's right. So that could put Xeris in the box seat, as a matter of fact, especially if there is another safety car.
Just depends
Because you'll
how
barely
long.
lose any time at all. It just really depends on how long. You're right. But,
Well, if that safety car occurs, then that is a huge issue. If it doesn't happen, then the nether bags and Foley are looking good, because it's about 20 seconds the gap that Xeris has to close up. But if the safety car occurs, then that does all that work for him.
yeah, Nether at the front has just over 6 seconds in hand on Bagsy as it stands. So great running so far from Nether, who was really able to take advantage of that yellow flag period earlier. He's up 9 spots from where he started in plumb last at the back of the grid. Just goes to show you how much qualifying really doesn't matter on those super long races. Or no, it's not. Well, an hour isn't massively long. It's just the characteristics of the track, how many laps it is, means that, you know, you can qualify a bit further down. It doesn't really affect you too much if you can get your strategy right.
Now,
But we'll see how that plays out.
Scott Murrell 2 laps down because of those pit stops, and at the moment he's very much struggling because Berto and Zalinger, they're having a battle for position in 5th and 6th, and Scott Murrell's desperately trying to get his lap back from them, at least one of them. And you can see how much it's costing. Look at Zalinger, he's round, and Scott Murrell's going to
They're both
follow him.
around.
That could be a safety car.
Oh,
It
Bagsy
is.
spun in sympathy as well. That's a safety car.
That is absolutely a safety car, and that is an absolute gift for Xeris.
It certainly is. So he can afford to just come in for a quick couple of quarts of gasoline, and he should be right to go to the end of the race. We're just catching a replay now, so
It's not the best
there's a
camera
bit of a
angle. Try and
kerfuffle there
find
through
some
turn
onboard.
3. Yeah, we certainly will. So let's have a look. Probably good from Bagsy's point of view, as a matter of fact, because you'll see it all coming, and then he gets directly involved in it. It's a bit far away, but we'll see what we can catch from this
He'll
angle.
be close pretty soon. So
He
we
certainly will
we were
be.
on board, and poor old Bagsy, I think he just jumped on the brakes, and of course that's caused the front and the back of the car to swap ends. See if we can't catch. We were on board with Scott Murrell when it happened, and I think that's probably was one of the best angles. In fact, who was the other car involved? It was Zalinger.
Berto would have been.
So Berto would have got a pretty good view. He was probably just in the wrong place at the wrong time. If he'd stayed on the outside, he would have completely avoided it, but he wasn't to know that was to happen. He's come into the pits. And
Still
he's come
haven't
out
seen
in
Xeris
7th.
come in, actually. So
Well, he's
Xeris
just
is now
made a pit
circulating
stop.
up in...
But,
Xeris has?
well, as in just, he made a green flag stop about 5 minutes
Oh,
ago.
of course, yeah. So he doesn't need to stop just yet. Nether Elmian, on the other hand, has. And he's coming out now. He's still in 2nd position, though. So he's barely lost any position at all, which is working out fantastically for his point of view. And Roadhog is up to 3rd. First on track at the moment behind the safety car. Not sure if they'll rearrange the field behind the safety car before they get underway, if someone gets a lucky dog at the front.
think Xeris probably
Not
should
really
have
sure.
pitted.
Yeah, I'm
because his rivals
shocked
had.
that he hasn't.
So I'm just
So he's going to
looking.
find himself in a.
Yeah, because unless there's another safety car that sort of gets him out of jail here. I'm just trying to see who else made pit stops because we're busy looking at the replays. So Foley
I've
came
got to be
in
honest,
2 laps ago. Go on,
I'm
Matt.
quite lost in my pitch strategy. So if I happen to be talking absolute crap, feel free to just talk over me.
All right. Well, let's get the pen out, and I'll run you through who's pitted and when. So Xeris pitted about 10 laps ago, so that was on lap 48. Nether came in on lap number 58, so that was when the safety car came out. Roadhog, he's up in 3rd because he didn't pit, and his last pit stop was on lap 45. Resist, he's another guy who benefited from a track position point of view. He pitted on lap 47, but we'd expect him to need to pit again. Just let me know if the race gets restarted as I'm looking at the live timing here. Brenton Foley pit on lap 58. And then we've got Bagsy pit on lap 57. Berto, who's currently down in 7th place, also pit on lap 57. Because they're a lap down, so that's basically the same lap as the guys who are a lap ahead of them, 57, 58. And then behind Berto, we've got Zarlinger, who pit on lap 57. And behind him, Scott Murrell, who had those disastrous 2 pit stops. He came in on lap 55.
So they seem to be lining up double file at the moment, which may be to let lap traffic through, but it's really hard to tell because we've got Xeris in 1st at the front of the queue and Nether in 2nd right at the back of it. So they're a bit all over the joint at the moment, and we may be due for a restart very soon. The safety car is going to come in right this second, as a matter of fact, and Xeris will lead them away to the line.
Oh,
it's a stop-go penalty for Brenton Foley.
That's huge. Then, unfortunately, there's no live steward to undo penalties, so that is absolutely going to KO his chances right now. Now, what has happened to the race order? It's completely changed from what it was a moment ago, with Roadhog now showing as the leader and Xeris down in 4th. What happened to Xeris?
I think he just didn't get a jump off the start. I'm going to try and have a look at a replay to see what happened. But it may have been a different timing green flag than he was used to. He got on the brakes on the main straight and everyone just went past him.
But wasn't Nether not showing as the leader a moment ago, and everyone else apart from himself and Xeris was a lap down? We've got another safety car now.
We certainly have, and now I think that was Nether who caused that one because he's going very slowly at the back of the queue here. So this race has really turned on its head rapidly. Oh no, it was Zarlinger. So Zarlinger's had an incident through turn 3.
Alright, we'll try and catch a replay of the Zarlinger incident. I do understand we're having a little bit of a drop in the bit rate, so apologies if the stream is lagging a bit. Hopefully on the replay it will start to improve a bit. But it looks like Zarlinger was trying to catch the back of the pack after...
Well, Nether was going to the pits and then he changed his...
What was he doing?
I think either he changed his mind, which doesn't seem very likely, or he just went in way too hot on the pit entry, locked a brake and understeered back onto the racing surface. So either way, it's a mistake for NetherRealmian, and unfortunately what that's done is it spun Zarlinger out, put him right to the back for now, and that has caused us another safety car. So will Xeris pit this time?
Well, we'll find out. Zarlinger has got a stop-go penalty as well by the looks of it. In fact, so does Berto. And so Foley, Nether, Xeris has a stop-go penalty, just going through all the onboards. So this is Automobilista shenanigans once more. So about half the field with stop-go penalties. Now Roadhog's just coming into the pits. He's currently showing
the
as
entire
the leader.
field except Nether is pitting.
Are they pitting or are they coming in to red flag the race, I wonder?
That could be a good point as well. I'm not really sure what's going on.
A substantial amount of the drivers have been given penalties erroneously, in my opinion, and that may well necessitate a bit of a server restart to finish the race. They are actually, they're lining up in the order that they are, and I suspect that they're going to restart this and just try and fix the race order because Automobilista has completely lost who's where in this race.
Yeah, it certainly has. So I imagine we'll get somebody jumping in pretty soon or leaving a message for us to let us know what is going on. But of course, I think just the penalties and what happened there on that restart have thrown everything into chaos, and we will be seeing with just around 20 minutes to go, a little bit over 20 minutes to go, I think was when the decision was made. We'll see a little bit of a sprint of the last third of the race when we get back underway, folks, which shouldn't be too far away. It does still say it is green, but in a practical sense, every single car is pulled into the pits now. So we'll be getting ready for another start very soon, I would hope.
Classic Automobilista, it says it's green, and yet the safety car is circulating around the racetrack. So that gives us a bit of a chance to take stock, as we've of course had these issues. It looks like we're still having some technical issues with the stream, so apologies if you are still experiencing that. Good chance to flick on KO and watch the last couple of overs of what looks to be quite a close cricket match, as I just gave it a commentator's curse and got a batsman out.
I think we just lost a wicket pretty cheaply. Oh, Abbott went just before you said that for 4, and I think Zampa just came in and Zampa's gone for a duck.
It was Agar actually for 28.
Agar.
So now they've got 2 batsmen at the crease on Nort, chasing about 25 off 3 overs.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Absolutely. We might take a bit of a break, Maddie, to see if we can't fix some of the technical issues we're having on our side, and we'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. Welcome backstage for the Automobilista Supercars Championship.
He's done a little bit of crew chiefing for various drivers in various races, and he's done a pretty good job of it. So he does have that strategic mind that helps in these situations.
So the server chat's lighting up now. I've asked them, do we know what caused it? And Josh Baggsy, Nether, and Xeris have all said the exact same thing along the lines of everybody coming into pit at the exact same time just threw the safety car for an absolute loop, and the game didn't know what to do with itself.
Now, I was under the understanding that there was a rule not to do that, because we've had this issue multiple times in the past where pitting under the safety car confuses it. So I'm a bit confused as to why they were allowed to do that. Maybe everyone forgot that rule and the reason for it.
The effects are probably amplified at a track as short as this as well.
Very much so, very much so. But we have definitely had this issue in longer races.
So now, while we're just waiting to get back underway, it's a good chance to look at what else is happening. Next round is going to be at Santa Cruz do Sol, which is back in Brazil, where these cars belong. You can follow us on Facebook at Apex Rear Wing.
Penal offence. Very good. We've just had a few... we've just had a little bit of an internal audit, and we've discovered the reason why the live stream was lagging was my housemate was trying to upload something. It's something that we deal with. We all work in a similar field, so we definitely have similar requirements for upload speed, and so he's graciously agreed to hold off his upload till the end of the stream, which means we should get a return to good quality for the end of this race once we get it underway.
How are we doing in the cricket at the moment? We're currently 9 for 286. Zampa's on strike with 3 runs. Hazelwood's on 5. Australia needs 17 more runs from 8 balls, including the one that was just sent down for a cheeky single. So 16 runs from 7 balls. It's technically achievable.
Yeah, we've got Tucker bowling. He's running into Zampa, and he... oh, it's a full toss. And it looks like he was going for the attempted Yorker. Zampa just put it out towards mid-on for a single. And when I say mid-on, I of course mean mid-off.
I'm still at the stage of my knowledge of cricket where I don't know any positions around the field except things like square leg and slips and things like that. And I always get confused with on and leg. So that's going to be something that, or off and leg, I should say. There you go. Perfect example.
On his leg.
It is indeed. It just reminded me of one of my favourite quotes from the IT crowd, but they all go out for a fancy dinner. And this assistant says, "Oh, we're having a normal dinner with normal people tonight, so don't talk about memory or RAM." And Moss says, "But Jen, memory is RAM."
On his leg. Very good. 15 more runs required from 6 balls as we're in this holding pattern, waiting for the grid to get set for the start of the second part of this race.
Boomerang to bowl the final over, terrifyingly.
And Hazelwood on strike, so he needs to get. I think he needs to get the strike over to Zampa pretty quickly. Boomer is just running out his. I think he's running out his run. His run up before he bowls this last over. Looks like we've got the stream up and running. If anyone missed the announcement before, it's because we had another housemate was uploading, so they have graciously agreed to hold off until the end of the stream, so that's why we're back up and running.
The siren's just gone at the track, so we should be starting to see cars lining up in the pit lane very soon, and we certainly are indeed. So we are on for a double file race start very, very soon, and we'll have to run through. I thought Madbird in the chat was commentating the cricket on a faster time than we were, and I thought he'd spoil the result. But he too was quoting the IT crowd because he said 4, I mean fire, I mean 5.
Hazelwood did actually get a single off the first ball over to turn over strike towards Zampa, who's got 5 balls left to make 14 runs. As we're now looking at the cars at the end of the pit lane, ready to start or restart this race.
So let me quickly run through the grid for you one more time, folks. So Netherwelming will be starting on pole for this restarted race. Josh Bagsy lines up alongside in second. Brenton Foley will be right behind Nether in third, with Xeris back down in 4th position. Birdo will be starting this race from P5 with Roadhog up to 6th. Resist is 7th. His teammate Zalinger is 8th. And Scott Murrell is down in 9th position. So the field has been shooketh quite dramatically for this restart. We've still got a bit of time to go. They're appealing for LBW, and it's out, and it's game over unless they review it.
Oh, you're
we'll
ahead
have to see what happens. I certainly am ahead of you.
I was just watching Zampa swing and miss by the distance of approximately from here to Melbourne on the second ball of that over. So that'll be it for that particular game.
I imagine they will review because they're always going to review it if it's the match-winning run. But the safety car's in.
Yes, let's focus on the race now. Good timing as Josh Bagsy tries to take the lead of the race from Nether. And how well can these guys do? We've got side-by-side action as well between Xeris and Brenton Foley. Now, this is crucial for the championship, of course. Foley ahead of Xeris. Xeris definitely wants to get those positions back because he needs to start to bring this 77-point margin down.
He certainly does. And it's a bit of a margin, of course, because he missed the last round. Nether's very wide. Has he slapped the fence? He hasn't caused a safety car or anything, but he's dropped all the way down the field. He's down in P6, and he has no pace now, so he's going to get swamped by Scott Murrell and Resist in no time flat. And that puts Bagsy up into the lead of the race.
That's very, very frustrating for Nether. He'd done everything perfectly in this race to that point, and just the unfortunate circumstances of the game tonight playing against him. Now Xeris trying to make the move on the inside of Brenton Foley, and it looks like he's going to have a good go at it as Brenton Foley takes the high line. Xeris on the inside, but he has to yield just a little bit there. Bagsy leads the race, and he'll be happy to be able to say that he led at the racetrack that he chose.
Yeah, you'd hope so, wouldn't you, if it's the track that you've picked, because you'd be expected to be the expert of it. And he's looking pretty quick so far. Very, very wide exit there, trying to carry as much momentum as he possibly can because he knows he's got Brenton Foley and Xeris, championship first and second respectively, bearing down behind him with Birdo in tow. So it's a very, very quick lead of the race here. Bagsy's lost a bit of pace after I think he just nicked the wall. Xeris has put the fastest lap down of a 31.71.
Oh, there's contact! There's contact! And Brenton Foley is around! It was safety car is out. Xeris was into the back of Foley, but I think it was a little bit of a check-up. Foley got held up by Bagsy, and then Xeris was into the back. Oh, I don't like it. Let's see if we can catch a replay. So here is the onboard from Bagsy, which is not what we want to see. We're going to catch the onboard from Xeris. And it's hard to blame Xeris for that because it was Foley getting caught up behind Bagsy.
Yeah, I think Foley nicked the back of Bagsy and checked up a little bit, and then Xeris had nowhere to go.
Oof.
And that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah, there is confirmation from the onboard of Brent and Foley. It's messy, and it's unfortunate, and it means that Foley has an awful lot of work to do. Will he have damage as well? He's just come out of the pits as well.
I'm wondering if Netherelmian has had an incident of his own as well, because he's still languishing at the back of the safety car queue, or he's caught up now, but he was quite far off the pace, and I don't imagine that was all to do with the lack of pace that he had from clipping the wall earlier, so he may have had a spin somewhere else, but I'm not really sure. It's inconsequential now because he is on the back of the queue and we're just waiting to get restarted again.
I think he's just lifted out of the throttle quite a lot once the announcement came through from the game that there was a safety car.
Saving a bit of fuel, perhaps.
Bagsy with 20 minutes to go, he'll be fancying his chances here, I think, because he knows
Yeah,
how to drive a
absolutely.
wide race car.
If anyone knows how to defend, it's definitely him up in the lead, but he's going to have Xeris, of all people, right behind him. So that'll be a challenge, to say the least. And now this is the point of the broadcast where I pull up the stats sheet and I try to see the last time that one of these drivers won a race, because we could be on for some record-breaking stuff here, ladies and
It would
gentlemen.
have been quite a few seasons for for Bagsy, I should say. He was very competitive in the GT3 series we did, which was back in season 3. But he has won races since then. There was the opening race of the Supercars Championship we did, which was season 4 at Monza. Just trying to think what other series we've done since then. But I have a feeling that might have been the last victory for Bagsy in the Pocari Sweat car.
He had a podium in... His last podium was in the Porsche Cup, season 6, quite some time ago. And in terms of race wins, it may even be quite a bit further back indeed. So I'll try and slowly crawl through that as quickly as I can.
I'd say season 4, off the top of my head.
4, yes. You're absolutely right. He won the season opener in the Super V8 Endurance Series there.
And that was a great strategic battle. He came into the pits at the right time. And Xeris didn't in that particular occasion, and there were no safety cars to ruin his strategy. And that was in the Pocari Sweat. I think it was a Nissan Altima he was driving in that series.
So for a brief moment there, Foley was running up in 5th position, but I think he's fallen back to where he belongs now.
Yeah, it might have been a timing glitch.
Yeah, so that I wouldn't be shocked there, given the freak out that the track had earlier on us. And now he'll be circulating at 9th and plumb last at the back of the grid, but we know he's quick. And if he doesn't have any damage, which he shouldn't do, because I don't know how hard he hit the wall, but it didn't seem to be ridiculously hard, he may be able to challenge for some late spots here, because that's going to be crucial for his championship battle as well. Of course, you've got to remember that he's leading the championship by 77 points, and this race is paying 150 to the winner. And if he finishes 9th where he is now, that's only going to be worth 42 points. And the safety car's in. We've got a restart on our hands. Bagsy gets away well. Xeris isn't able to challenge as straight off the bat through the tri-oval, and he's going to lead through by a car length into turn 1. So Bagsy's got a great start. He's just got to hold on to it and just put consistent laps in and try and keep Xeris from getting up the inside. He's going to have to defend really, really hard here into turn 3. And Xeris can't really do much here at the moment. You wouldn't want to be taking too many risks. He is wide indeed, and Xeris goes, thank you very much.
Oh, and there's a safety car. There's an incident at the back. Scott Murrell's around, I believe. Is Brenton Foley involved in that as well?
Yes, he is. Wow.
Unbelievable scenes here. Unbelievable scenes. We're going to try and see what happened there. Unfortunately, that's just what happens when you get caught up at the back. Oh, it's already happened at that point. So I think Scott Murrell spun on his own.
Yep,
he
certainly
going
did.
down the inside of Zarlinger, and unfortunately, and right in the wrong place for Brenton Foley. Absolutely nothing going right for Brenton Foley right now. I mean, he couldn't have been more careful going into this corner. And he had to choose. There was a crucial moment there where he had to choose whether he was going to go to the high side or the low side. And he chose the high side, and unfortunately that was the route that got blocked off by Scott Murrell's spinning Opala stock car.
It's such a tough call, isn't it? And if you're Scott Murrell, you'd probably be at your benefit to take a pit stop next time around for a fresh set of tyres, because he's going to be losing a lot of rubber. Probably would have flat spotted them and made them into 50-cent pieces going through turn 3 there, completely sideways. So if he wants to have a chance at getting some good points on the board here, he'll want to come in and get a fresh set of rubber on those wheels. Otherwise, he's going to be languishing with very, very annoying vibration.
Very much so. And so, do you come in if you're Bretton Foley and just chuck on an extra set of tyres if you're not going to lose a
Absolutely.
lap? Maybe he's got a bit of damage, but I don't think he's got time to repair too much of that. Every time that we have one of these safety cars, Bagsy's getting a bit more practice in restarting, and he seemed to do a pretty good job on the previous occasion. And this is all just precious time that Xeris can't take the lead away from him.
Yeah, that's right indeed. But Xeris is going to have another crack at taking that lead straight away to see if he can get it done before the first corner, because if that's what happens, and there happens to be another safety car at the end of the first lap, then that'll be another point for whoever is in the lead at that time, of course, because like you said, you get that extra buffer of 3 laps in the lead for no effort whatsoever. So you can watch for some really, really close battling between the guys at the front through the first corner. As we're just seeing, Foley's coming back in, so he pitted after the last safety car period. I think the light's going to go out on the safety car pretty soon, so that may have been a late call. No, he's got one more lap under his sleeve. So if he can catch up to the back of the queue, he'll be in the clear, and he'll be in for a fresh set of rubber as well.
Yeah, I think he needs to do that. He's got nothing to lose this last anyway, so he might as well try and utilise the benefit of a bit of extra grip to gain back as many positions right now. This is damage limitation for Brenton Foley. It's been such a roller coaster of a night for him. When we first logged onto the server at the beginning of the night, he was struggling for pace. He was down there in 7th or 8th. Scott Murrell actually graciously shared with him a setup which helped him to get up onto the pace, and he qualified 3rd, and he was running in those lofty positions for quite some time. And then he was looking, after the restart, pretty much odds on for a podium finish, but of course the accident there has absolutely destroyed his chances, as we are going to get another restart, Matt.
Josh Bagsy leads them away across the start-finish line, and Xeris is definitely a lot closer this time than he was last time around. He's trying to find a way past every which way he possibly can. Bagsy goes super defensive on the inside. Was he maybe too defensive? Because Xeris has a lot of pace around the outside of turn 2 here. They're going to be side by side with Xeris pushed up against the wall, but Xeris has the momentum. Does he have the position by the time they get to turn 1? Yes, he does. Xeris takes the lead. Bagsy has to drop back to 2nd position, and Birdo is swarming now. He's smelling blood in the water, and he wants to have a go as well. Zarlingier, meanwhile, is in 4th position, trying to make a Bradbury order if something goes wrong at the front. Birdo's going to have a look up the inside of Bagsy as well into turn 1. You can't do that there. They so nearly made contact. Look how close they are. That's incredibly precise driving from Birdo, and they're still holding on. Bagsy is still in 2nd position. He's got more pace down the back straight, and he'll hold on at least through turn 3, but it's changing at a time. He's so wide through that corner again. He keeps it in a straight line, but he's just a little bit sideways. He's oversteered all the way through there, and Birdo was another safety car. Oh, it's Roadhog and Netherelmian as well, I think.
Netherelmian's coming through the pit lane by the looks of it. We'll see if we can catch. We'll see if we can catch a replay of what happened. Yes, it was Nether and Roadhog. You called it perfectly, Matt.
So Nether had to take evasive action into pit lane.
Right at the entry to the pits, yes.
Hopefully that doesn't give Steam with a... Oh, he's DNF'd from the race.
Yeah, you can imagine his frustration right now. He was in the box seat from a strategic point of view not too long ago, and we're now well past the 4 safety cars that I predicted. I think we're up to 5.
I think so.
With 2 in the first one. In fact, actually, that would be 6 now. We had 3 in the first race, and we've had 3 in the second race, so that would make it 6 by my count. So we're very close to that 7 now. With 13 minutes left, so safety cars breed safety cars, as they say. And that one came a little bit too late for Josh Bagsy. Xeris is in the lead.
It's incredible how many safety cars stack on top of each other in the later stages of the race when there's that much more pressure as well, because you know you can steal a win at the last moment. And everyone's just trying to get that little bit of an edge, and it always goes a little bit too far. And it's really sad to see Netherelmi retiring from the race, because he was on for a win if we didn't have those issues in the first running of the race, because he had the strategy down to a T. And unfortunately, he's going to be finishing 9th and plumb last. We are definitely past 75% race distance, which I think is what classifies as a classification in Apex Rear Wing, but I could be wrong.
That's correct. So everyone gets points from this point of view. Two awful guys. Madbird in the chat rightfully pointing out that Foley gained 2 positions, and of course that was because Nether and Roadhog crashed into each other. He didn't actually quite catch the back of the train before that restart on the previous safety car. He was probably about 2 seconds behind, and then he was just sort of trying to catch them. I don't actually know if he got ahead of Roadhog and Nether before they had that incident. That would have been unfortunate if he was to be taken out by that issue.
Madbird in the chat saying Foley gained 2 positions, only 4 more and he'll be in the lead. And I had spent a minute trying to figure out the mental gymnastics that he was doing there to see how that mathematics worked in any possibility. And then he clarified that if there's 4 more safety cars, then at this rate, Brenton Foley will be in the lead.
Well, I don't know that we've got time for 4 more safety cars. As it stands,
they'd almost surely.
From a championship point of view, we would have a change in the lead again, with Xeris taking full points for the win and Foley down in 7th place. That would be a big swing. 77 points, Foley is currently in the lead, and Xeris would then be leading by 19 points. So that's a fairly hefty change. What's that? 95-point swing.
Massive swing there, and it just goes to show you how important this last 10 minutes of this race is going to be, because there will be just under 10 minutes to go once the safety car peels in at the end of this lap, and Brenton Foley will be the driver to keep an eye on, and he'll be just begging that he doesn't get into trouble and crash again, because he needs as many positions as he can get if he wants to challenge Xeris for the championship in the pointy end of the field, because as he said, Xeris will take the lead in the current rate, and Xeris, all he has to do is just keep it in the straight and narrow and just defend from the guys behind him, which he's well adept at doing. And I imagine we'll have a safety car period ending in this lap. The lights will be out very, very soon, and it will start peeling in the next couple of corners. I say corners, there's 1 corner left, and it's the one that the safety car is going through right now. We're coming to an end. Bagsy's already swerving left and right, trying to get through. We've got a green flag now. They're making a big break for it. I think that's Zarlingier trying to make a run around the outside, and so's Josh Bagsy around the outside of Xeris, trying to be opportunistic. Nothing doing there. He has to slot back inside. Single file.
Oh, no! He's been hit by Birdo, and around goes Bagsy. It's absolutely come undone. We are under safety car conditions once more. That's Foley up to 7th, although what's happened there? He's just gone behind Roadhog, so I'm wondering if he got
as well.
Zarlinger's spun
Foley's
around.
out of the race.
Foley's out of the race.
Foley's
Is that what you
lost
said?
a wheel. He's hit the wall. Foley's lost a wheel. He's pulling in to retire. He's got 3 wheels on his wagon, and Brenton Foley is out of the race. He will finish 8th in this race, and he'll be even further down the point standings. Look at this absolute calamity. We're seeing a replay now.
Yeah, we're just going to try and get a bit of a better view of it, but oh no, that's a worse view. So it's a classic NASCAR style accident by the looks of it. A chain reaction. Oh no.
What a shame.
Once again, Foley in the wrong place at the wrong time. I can't even. Well, let's try and get that on board.
You'd be absolutely spewing, wouldn't you? Let's have a look on board from Brenton Foley's point of view.
Get a better idea. So here's all the chaos going. So it was Foley and Bagsy, the start of the chain reaction, I believe. Sorry, not Foley. Birdo and Bagsy.
He tried to avoid it high again.
How did Bagsy end up coming back out onto the road? There's nothing Foley could have done there, because he could not have expected Bagsy to come up off the grass. So I don't know.
He must have been planting the throttle And
He
then
should have been on the brakes.
full opposite lock on the right-hand side, and as soon as the tyres gripped, it just sent him right back to the outside. So, unfortunately, that could have been avoided, but Bagsy in a panic, just trying to correct what he thought was still a slide that was savable. So Birdo
this is Birdo probably not reacting fast enough to Bagsy checking up there. Hard to call that one, probably a racing incident, or that one actually was probably avoidable, the pit manoeuvre afterwards.
I think Birdo got a lot more stuck into him than he really needed to there, unfortunately.
So he's lost about 3 positions as a result of that as well, but he hasn't lost nearly as much as poor old Brenton Foley, who that's probably the third time in this restart that he's been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, but Brenton Foley is still in the pits. He's going back out with 3 wheels on his car. I don't think he'll be allowed to.
No, it's not in the rules. You're not allowed to. Somehow Roadhog got his car fixed last week when it was missing a wheel. It's an important wheel as well. It's one of the right-hand side ones.
Yeah, he'll be needing that one. I don't see how he's going to be fast at all, and I imagine he'll be staying in that lane and coming straight back in.
Yeah, I don't know why he's bothering, because he is already classified. And so, from a position point of view, he's got nothing to gain.
And he's not even going back out on track. He's coming straight back in to retire that car.
Yeah. So he will get points for, what was he in? 8th. So he'll get points for 8th.
So with the points difference to 8th, that'll blow the margin out to 25 points now between Xeris and Brenton Foley, with Xeris now taking the championship lead if he stays in the lead of the race. That's a big if.
Resist
but
in
now,
second.
Resist is in second, guys.
How about this for a bit of a change of fortune? Scott Murrell, who was 2 laps down in last place at one point, is in 3rd place.
This is a crazy, crazy race by every stretch of the definition. Just everything that can go different, everything that can go weird and strange is what's happening here. So we're on for a restart now. Safety car's peeling in. Xeris is going to lead them around. His brother Resist is second behind him. Does Resist fancy his chances for a win here? You almost have to if you're starting second. We're underway once again.
Scott Murrell's going to have a good jump. He's right on the back of Resist. And if he gets past him pretty quickly, you can imagine he'll have a go for the lead. But Resist is still angling for his first win as well. Scott Murrell trying to go around the outside of Resist. Currently 0.3 of a second advantage for Xeris. Oops, that's not a very good camera angle. Oh, Resist! Resist is spun around, and Scott Murrell into the side of him. We've got a safety car.
Oh, did Scott Murrell collect anybody? No, he didn't.
How did he?
So everyone's still in the race.
All right, so Scott Murrell's now down in 7th. Let's catch a replay. We cut away at the wrong time for that. We'll try and get the onboard, because that will tell us more of the story. Poor old Resist. Those tyres must be getting a little bit old. At the longest possible slide, and Scott Murrell just understeered plain into the side of him. So that's resulted in a safety car. We've got 4.5 minutes left.
Do you take a stop for tyres?
Wow. I don't think you do if you're, unless you're at the back. Why would you?
You're going to lose 35 seconds, and that's not time you can really make up with a fresh set of rubber. And we're getting a quote from Madbird. We don't have time for 4 more safety cars. Well, apparently we do.
Well, what was that? 3 safety cars? Well, 1 more and Foley will be in the lead. Oh. Oh, I feel very bad now that I've said that at Foley's expense. It's a devastating blow to his championship, of course. It'd be a 25-point lead to Xeris if it were to finish this way, but it would be a fool's errand to try and predict how this race will finish. At the moment, it's Xeris leading from Birdo. Resist in 3rd place somehow after having that huge moment and contact with Scott Murrell. Scott Murrell only lost 2 spots down in 4th. Zarlinger and Bagsy and Roadhog. It's very much a merry-go-round of positions right now, but Xeris and Berto, well, Xeris really is the only man who hasn't come undone so far.
So now we've only got 7 cars running to finish this race. We should probably only see 1 more lap of safety car action in this safety car period at least.
Well, if we get another one, surely we're finishing under yellow.
You'd think so, because we've already lost probably about 2 minutes alone from this one. Resist is still yet to spin his car around completely, Mad Bird reliably informs us in the chat. So my reverse curse is working. It's a strat. It's legit. Let's take stock take.
You've already lost the Australian cricket team a game tonight.
We won the series. I don't care that much. Xerus is leading. Birdo is second. Resist is now third with Scott Murrell fourth. Having surely, I thought was out of the race for good, but he's still fourth. He's still in for a chance here. You never know. Zarlingier is fifth. Bagsy is down to P6, and Roadhog is bringing up the rear of the field in 7. And we do actually have one more lap of safety car. So by the time they come back around, there'll be just under 2 minutes to go. It'll probably be a little bit closer to minute 30. So we'll have 3 laps of running, maybe 4 laps of running, if we don't have another safety car. So if you're going to get passes done, get them done ASAP, guys, because that's when you need them.
They're doing 57-second laps under the safety car, so pretty much twice as long as it takes to do a green flag lap around here. Interesting that the safety car laps around here faster than, well, in a shorter amount of time than it goes around most of the other circuits that we visit in this season.
Is that due to the virtue of the track just being shorter?
Yes.
Yes. That's a very interesting tidbit there.
You ask an obvious question, you get an obvious answer, don't you?
Safety car's in. We've got to restart, folks. There's a minute 46 to go.
Yes, boy.
3 laps remaining. Get in there. We've got one more restart, hopefully. Roadhog's going for a big lunge around the outside. He's already made up 2 spots before they've even got to the first corner. So Roadhog's on a flyer. Xerus is still leading this race. Birdo is just behind him. They're still single file for now. All these guys have to be really careful. They've seen what happened to Resist there. They've seen what happened to the other drivers. If you get it just a little bit out of line, you're going to miss. Oh, Birdo's up close to Xerus, and we're starting to see Resist fall back a little bit into the clutches of Scott Murrell, who's up the inside of him, looking for third. Roadhog's trying to pick up the pieces because he's right behind those two as well, trying to look for fourth, maybe even up to a podium spot. Resist falls back to P4. Roadhog wants to get up the inside of him. He's a little bit too far back at the moment. Resist still leads. 1 minute to go. We've got 3 laps remaining, including this one. It'll be a 34-lap race. Birdo is right up the rear bumper of Xerus. That's too close. We've seen what's happened. He's up the inside. He's got a wheel up alongside him. Is he going to try for the gap there into turn number 3? Xerus holds on around the outside. They're still side by side. 39 seconds to go. We've got 2 laps to go, folks. This is the penultimate lap. Birdo is almost up the inside. Oh, they're so close to touching stairs.
How did Xerus hold on to that position? He had a huge moment around the penultimate corner on the previous lap. That allowed Birdo up alongside. Birdo had got the space. Xerus was forced to give him a car's width, and he was nearly through, but he just couldn't close the deal. And somehow Xerus still leads this race. He's up again high on the exit of that corner. Is that going to give Birdo enough of a run? But he does have a little bit of margin. With the timer about to hit 0, we'll have the end of this lap and then one more, and that will be it. Looks like Xerus is starting to pull away just a little bit. Scott Murrell's clear of Resist in 3rd, and then there's a little bit of a gap behind to Roadhog. Here we go, one more opportunity for Birdo. Can he get it done? On the inside, he's going to absolutely send it. Side by side as they come through, and it's Birdo. Birdo's going to get by on the final lap. And that is that. They're still side by side. Xerus is hanging tough around the outside. They've got one more lap to go, and somehow Birdo is in front.
Zarlingier crashed out at the back. He's DNF. There was no safety car, though. He was in a bad way. He had a massive hit. So we've got 6 cars on track now, side by side. Xerus on the outside, Birdo on the inside. 1 corner left to go. They're still running side by side. This camera angle's awful. But they're still going strong. It's going to be neck and neck at the line. It's going to be a photo finish. It's going to be Birdo. It's Birdo by 4,000ths of a second. Birdo has won Nazareth.
Wow. Birdo.
4,000th of a second. What a finish.
That was incredible. We're going to try and... whoops, we've got the wrong camera angle there. We're going to try and catch a replay from... well, as many angles as we can, I think. Where is the line? I think it was a bit before that. We're going to catch the onboard, I think, because it was so close. I don't know if we're going to be able to see the other car. So Xerus got marginally ahead through the final corner, but then he was high on the outside and he lost his momentum. Birdo's going to come up the on the left-hand side on the inside. You probably won't see him actually. So that is the line. And if we can just go back and get a better camera angle. The biggest disappointment of this racetrack has been the camera angles. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the margin at the end of that race.
That is unbelievable. You could barely call that with a photo finish, and it's 0.004 of a second, the difference between Birdo and Xeris. That, I'm not sure. I haven't been around for Apex Rear Wing for the entirety of its existence, but would you... I think that's a pretty safe bet to say that might be the closest finish in this series' history.
I'd say without doubt. That's got to be the closest finish in Apex Rear Wing history. Just unbelievable. 0.004 of a second. And Birdo, well, he's going to be on Brenton Foley's Christmas list, isn't he?
You know what that means? Foley's still leading the championship because that's lost Xeris 30 points. Because you get 150 points for the win. That's what Birdo just earned, 150 points. And it's only 120 points for second, so Brenton Foley is still leading the championship by 5 points.
Absolutely right. So that is huge for the championship. What a massive difference that makes, because it was a 1 hour race, albeit split in half by virtue of the red flag, but those 0.004 of a second could well decide the championship because, as you said, Matty, that was a massive swing of points. So 30 points that Xeris missed out on just by those 0.004 of a second.
Well, after that absolutely chaotic finish to the endurance race here at Nazareth, we've got the podium finishers in the commentary box, and we're going to start with our third place getter, Scott Murrell. Well done, mate. That is your second podium on the trot after the second race at Mosport. At what point in the last 5 seconds of this race did you think you were on for a podium?
As I crossed the line, pretty much. Yeah, I had a fair bit of troubles during the race with some AMS things. So, it doesn't really feel like I should have got the third. But I guess AMS take us the way, AMS Gibbs.
Yeah, we definitely had some strange issues there, so we may even have to look over that and see what was going on. But in terms of driving itself in the car, because you've got a bit of experience, you were telling us earlier, on dirt tracking with iRacing and things like that, do you reckon that lended itself to the sort of racing with the Opalas around this track?
I was saying to the boys, I said we should actually have a go at the dirt on these. Just helped with the setup a little bit more. I knew kind of what general direction I wanted to put it in. My car preferred the higher line more to the other guys lower. So yeah, it just helped that little bit with that little bit more knowledge with the setups.
Well, it's definitely paid off, because in the end, it's a third place for you, mate. You're on the podium. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, and thanks for putting up through all of that, boys.
No worries.
No worries. Thank you for the show, indeed. Now we move on to second place men, Xeris. 0.004 of a second. It's so unfortunate for you, mate, but it was a great race for you. Tell me how it was from your perspective.
Well, I quite enjoyed the first half of the race, as I'm sure most people did. It looked like those who pitted early under the safety cars had called the strategy right, and they were looking really good up until that last shenanigan happened. And then from there, well, it was a bit of a farce, wasn't it?
Well, up until that point, let's talk about the first half of the race, because you pitted for fuel and tyres. You took your first stop under green flag conditions just a smidgen before we ticked over half race distance. Did you think you were going to be able to make it on the one stop?
Nah, I didn't really, to be honest. But, had there been more safety cars, perhaps. But those safety cars ended up lining up for those who pitted under safety car earlier in the race anyway. So there's no real way to tell what would have turned out to happen. And at least we got some sort of exciting finish to all of that.
Well, run us through that exciting finish, mate, because for the last couple of laps before the finish line there, it looks like you were both rehearsing your moves. Did you have a particular strategy in mind for the last corner, or was it just take it as it comes?
I'd hope to be a little more ahead. Berto had actually called it the lap before, said, I think you've got it. And then, I don't know, I guess my tyres weren't switched on and he managed to get under me. So we went side by side and that was it. 4 thousandths is an insane margin.
It certainly is. We're talking, we don't know for sure, but we're pretty confident that is the closest finish in Apex Rear Wing history. Commiserations for being on the back end of it, but congratulations on second place, mate. That's still a great result.
Not mad. That was pretty awesome.
It certainly was, mate. Well done on putting on the show, and thank you very much again. And now we move on to the beneficiary of that very, very, very tight margin, Birdo. Well done, mate. I believe that is your first... it is your first win this season, so congratulations, mate.
Yeah, cheers. Look, not really earned in all reality. Unfortunately, with that first 45 minutes, there were some really good strategies playing out, and it was a really good race. So, yeah, unfortunate that we all forgot about AMS doing AMS things, and meant that we need to have a bit of a restart.
Well, in that second stint, because nobody was coming for stops at all, I'm interested to know what was the tyre life like towards the end of the race there, because everyone was slipping and sliding all over the place. What was it like for you?
It was going to be close. I had a pretty good setup for old tyres, so I wasn't too worried, and it was pretty kind on the tyres. But I think the thing that was getting us all was that that last corner on cold tyres. So easy to spin the car. And yeah, I think it was just catching a lot of people out.
Absolutely. So we heard what that last battle was like from Xeros's perspective, and we heard that you called it in his favor. But run us through that last corner on the last lap. What was running through your head?
The lap before I'd scrubbed off too much speed coming through. I think it was the dog leg coming onto the back straight. So what did that'd be like the end of turn 3, maybe. And yeah, he got that gap on me and it was all over, but I last lap took a bit of a wide entry onto the back straight, which gave me a bit more of a run, and was able to go deep under brakes in the last corner. And yeah, that high line and the low line coming on the start finish straight are pretty neck and neck for speed as you're going across the line. Like, there's not one that's clearly quicker, so I was just get the foot into it and hope.
And hope you did, and it got you across the line by 4 thousandths of a second. Congratulations, mate. That is a fantastic win.
Absolutely insane. Cheers, guys. But yeah, look, shout out to Nether, who had a fantastic strategy it looked like was playing out, and Foley, and yeah, there was some great stuff that looked like it was going to happen.
Absolutely. We can't disregard those guys. They had some great strategy going on. It was such a shame to see them bowing out of the race. But congratulations again to yourself, Birdo, and all of our podium sitters here. And that was a hell of a race, Stairs.
Yeah, absolutely. You can hear in Birdo's voice, he's absolutely thrilled to have won that, but it's tempered with a little bit of disappointment for those guys who unfortunately missed out with the way that the race played out, and paying tribute, of course, to Nether and those others who had picked the strategy well. Bit of an update on the championship. As we mentioned, Brenton Foley still leads the championship. His 77-point margin has been cut to just 5 points. But if Xeros had won that race, Xeros would have taken the lead of the championship. So, as I mentioned a moment ago, Foley definitely will be putting Birdo on his Christmas list if he isn't already on it. So with 2 rounds to go, the championship is as tight as ever. Resist has jumped up into 3rd place with Birdo in 4th with their good results. So Resist ended up finishing 4th in that race. A good haul of points. I'm sure he would have preferred to get a podium, with the absent Goofball Antics dropping down from 3rd 2 spots into 5th. And then, who else have we got? Scott Murrell. Now with his 2nd podium on the trot, he jumps up into 6th place ahead of Nether, who I believe did get 75% of the race completed. So that would give him points for 9th place, keeping him in 7th. And then we've got Road Dogg in 8th, Bagsy in 9th, and then Sam Smith falls to 10th after his third race in a row absent. And then behind them we've got Zarlinger, Rhodey, Rambo, Decimage and Tyrrell, most of which were not here tonight.
Yeah, it's a shame for Rhodey, who wasn't able to register any points on the board, having bowed out of the race in the first half of proceedings. And NetherRealmian thankfully was able to get past the 75% margin and put some points on the board, so it was great for him. And that is the points as it stands. We move on to Santa Cruz do Sul in a week's time, which is a stalwart of the Brazilian Stock Car Racing Championship. It's one of the tracks that these cars are actually built for. And we've got a sprint feature format there, as we normally see as our regular thing. So the sprint race will be worth 50 points, and the feature will be worth 100. That's going to blow the championship wide open if it isn't already open enough, and it's going to make strategy very, very interesting. I can't wait for it, Stairs.
Can't wait. We hope that Madbird is back to his vocal effervescent self, and in the intervening week can convalesce from his horrendous illness. That's all the time we have tonight. Matty, and from myself, Stairs, thank you very much indeed for watching. Bye for now.